Hello there, very good morning to you. You're watching Sewing Street and my name is Debbie Shaw and we're going to be here for the next 4 hours, 5 hours with Wendy Orlando's coming up later on, and we are launching Susan Briscoe's brand new book that isn't going to be available anywhere else till tomorrow, and that's the book of Boro. So have a look on the website, get ahead of the game there. All signed as well, don't get that on Amazon. So thank you for joining us nice and early. So because you are here early in the morning, we bring you a very special deal. And we're really excited this morning because we've got Best Press back. We haven't had this in stock for weeks and we've got it. So not only do we get it back in stock, but we knock the price down a bit as well. If you haven't used Best Press before, it's basically a starchless starch. It's not just good at taking away wrinkles in your fabric, it adds fragrance. This is the lavender one we have for you. It helps to kind of firm up the fabric, but it doesn't leave any chalky residue on you. You know, like a starch can, like a spray starch. It can be very kind of white sometimes if you overdose on it, but this isn't. It doesn't leave any kind of residue whatsoever. So you're saving £3 off the usual. You've got a huge size there as well. It's only £8.99. So stock up. It's not going to go off. Now if you want to come and communicate this morning, it'd be lovely to hear from you. I'm on the wrong page again, aren't I? I do this all the time. No idea where you are, but you can come and join me on Facebook. And no, still not there. I'll be there in a minute. Or you can drop me an email if you like as well. So on Facebook, I'm on the Facebook main page. We should be live on there, and you can leave comments underneath. So that's Sewing Street TV, or you can drop us an email if you like. And that's the Sewing Street Facebook page, Sewing Street TV, and then the email address is studio@sewingstreet.com. So if you want to come and say hello, let us know what you're up to this morning. And oh, you're there already, lovely. So we have Carolyn's, oh no, it's 50, but Bonnie, first one in, bright and early, morning Bonnie. Glennis and Rachel Hunt, is that the Rachel Hunter, Lady Rach? Oh no, that was his last wife, wasn't it? Sorry. I was thinking Rod Stewart. Oh, I went back in time. Lorraine. Oh, morning Dawn. Morning Morag. 26 hours to work. Morning Kirsty. Oh, she's at a work office, aka my conservatory. Very dull in North. It's very foggy this morning coming into work. Took me ages. Morning Sandra. Morning Sally. Just walking Brian and Stanley. Hi Brian. Brian. Stanley. Sit. That's her sons. Hi Kay, hi Suzanne, hi Cheryl. Yeah, because if you've got any pictures, let us know what you've been up to. If you've got any questions, then do come on through and we'll see if we can sort you out. Best Press. Love the fragrance as well. And I think with lavender particularly, if you're ironing the sheets or the pillowcases, maybe use it to iron and then just give it a little bit of a spritz and let it dry, and you'll have that wonderful soft fragrance. It's not a fragrance that interferes with other fragrances. So let's demo this thing. So lavender colour fabric, deliberately chosen to and lavender coloured iron to promote our lavender Best Press. Oh, lots of you multi-ordering. Well done, you. So really crumpled up fabric. Oh, you know what's going to happen here. You only need a light mist. So actually you can really see it stand out on there. Love the way as well that it's not an aerosol. I think a spray is a little bit better, isn't it? And then, oh, the smell. One of these days we'll have smell-o-vision, won't we? And you'll have this wonderful soft lavender fragrance wafting into your living room or your kitchen or your bedroom or wherever you are. So I'm not normally here on a Monday morning. Sunday morning we have so many people watching in bed. So what are you doing this morning? Are you up yet? Oh, that smells so nice. Now, you can see it's a little bit firmer, but it's not stiff and chalky like starch can be. And do you know? And you get so much in there as well. That's a rather large bottle. Smells nice, doesn't it? But it's gentle. Not been in stock for a long time, but we've got it for you right now. See, Wendy's in bed this morning. Weather's too foggy to put the washing out. Well, you can't see the washing line, can you? It's so thick. Sue's with us, and Sue and Donna, and oh, it's gorgeous in Cheshire, says Jan. Mind you, oh, it's wet in Jarrow. Oh, Carol. Has the sound been turned down? It's very low. I don't know. I can't turn the sound up or down. So don't know. Shall I talk louder? Oh, okay. Heard a no in my ear. Elliot's on us. We have Kat producing this morning. We have Elliot directing. So we've got our own little bubble. They're both saying hello. So we're working with the same teams from now on, so that we're separate from the other half. Elliot says hello everyone. Oh, Christine's messaged on the website. Morning, Debbie, from a miserable Yorkshire. Oh. That was Christine, wasn't it? Oh, so you can message on the website, you can message on email, you can message on Facebook, you can message on YouTube, you can message all over the place. We're everywhere this morning. Oh, Dawn's in her PJs with a tea in her hand. Oh, I'm on the big TV. Am I widescreen HD this morning? Morning, Irene. Oh, we're ever so busy this morning, aren't we? Oh, busy on the early bird as well. Remember, you can order as many as you like. You'll pay one postage of £3.95. Now this is going to go up in price either when we sell out or at the end of the day today. So if you wanted to order more than one would be a good idea. So you're £3.95 postage, but that's all day. And it'll come to you like that as well. Obviously, this one's been used a little. So if you order anything else throughout the day, so if you're right, I want to get my best price, I want it in my basket, I want to go through and pay for it, I don't want to miss out. And then you think, oh, Susan Briscoe's launching a brand new book in the next hour, all signed and everything. I want to come back and to buy a book. You won't pay any more postage for it. So we add up all of your orders up till midnight tonight and only one postage. We're getting lots of questions about that book, aren't we? Busy this morning. We're going to put the book on pre-order, so if you want to go to the website, you will see there on the pre-order that you can order the book right now. So you don't have to wait until the show goes live and the products appear underneath the video. You can order it right now. I know a lot of you have been waiting for that book. And remember, they're all signed as well. We've only got a few hundred. Morning, Kim. And, oh, I don't want to miss anybody. Thank you, Janice. Jane's off to work in a bit. Good. If you're staying in, have you got your coffee or your tea ready? So I've got a lovely coffee here that's going to go cold like they normally do, but you know, it happens. Elliot made it specially. So I'm getting reminders in my ears to just keep drinking it. Stay hydrated. Stay awake, I think, at this time in the morning. Right, £8.99. If you want to order, 0800 11 433 is the phone number, or you can go to sewingstreet.com and order that way. Oh, that quarter of the stock sold out, and we have hundreds of these. I think you've been waiting for it, haven't you? You've got the bigger size, you have the lavender fragrance. It's a nice lavender fragrance though. You know, sometimes lavender can smell like mothballs. This isn't, it actually smells like fresh lavender. When you walk past lavender and you brush up against it and you have that really lovely, delicate aroma, then, oh, you're having a chat between each other now, aren't you? So Dawn's talking to Kim. Oh, look, that Kimberly's my daughter. She'll be watching from home this morning. And she has plenty of sewing to do in lockdown, yes. She makes a dress a day at the moment. I just can't believe how much sewing she does. I don't know where she gets it from. Nova says, morning, Debbie. Morning, Nova. Lovely to see you. Oh, thank you very much. Nova's in bed, considering what she's going to sew today. I'm going to make... I was going to make the pyjama eater from a half-yard kids book, but the coat hanger's a bit big, so we'll just make a coat hanger storage thing, I think, in a little bit. Oh, and Christine's... Oh, oh, she wants a project for a 13-year-old to make. I'll show you my half-yard kids book in a minute, because I'm sure there's some things in there that she'd be able to make. Because it's things to make for kids, not for kids to make, if that makes sense. I'll show you that later. Or let me know what you decide to make. Right, coming up this morning in this show, we've got your best press. Really busy for this one, so do make sure you get hold of that. Then we've got some new fabric bundles for you as well. Those are a little bit of fun. And yeah, we've got my book, and we've got coming up at 10 o'clock is a quilt behind me here. So that's the Going Places quilt with Wendy Orlando. So she's going to be showing us half square triangles, but we're going to be doing a little bit of binding as well. So if you've got any quilting type binding questions, does that make any sense whatsoever? Then do send them across. So let's just shimmy over here. There we go. I'll need to nip back and get the iron at some point. New book. Oh, it's not mine, Tracy. It's Susan Briscoe's. The Book of Boro. That's going to come up in the next hour, and it's on pre-order as well, okay? Oh, hi Pauline, hi Janet. 50th birthdays. Oh, she's got a Debbie library. Oh, you've got to wait till next February for my next book. So, lovely. Foggy in Loughborough. Laverne's got a cuppa. We have some new fabric to show you. Now, this is all put together in a bundle, but it's available on its own by the half metre as well. And it's just fun. Look, let me open this up and show you. We've got bugs and critters. I love the black background. I think it just makes the print really stand out on those. We have ladybirds and dragonflies and beetles. And I love the little frames as well. Now, you could cut those out individually. You could do a really random advent calendar with those, couldn't you? Or maybe a wall hanging and have the pockets like 4 a size. We could have done that, couldn't we? That would have been nice. So that would be really useful. But I love the rainbow colours. It's just fun, isn't it? Really stands out. The colours are so happy and fun. It's £5.99 for half a metre. And the print is actually up and down, so it's the right way around. If you wanted a metre of this, you need to order 2 units. It'll come to you in one piece. So if you wanted to make a pair of curtains, you can actually, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? You'd need a lining with it because it's quilting weight cotton. But that would make a really nice curtain, or a child's quilt maybe. So £5.99 for half a metre, so that's your bugs. Bugs and critters. We've got more. So 112 centimetres wide, and a little bit more of the greenery with this one. In fact, I love those little bugs again. Beetles and ladybirds and dragonflies. Oh, what are you going to make with these? Do you know, quite often asked for boys' fabric. I know girls like bugs as well, but this is fun for boys and girls, isn't it? Right, so that one is, oh, do you know, I can't even read what's on the telly. Bugs Multi, in leaf, that one's called, apparently. £5.99 again for your half metre. And we've got more, they'd make a really nice quilt, actually, wouldn't it? And we do have the mega bundle coming up, so you can go for all of those. So this is just the bugs. They do look like they should glow in the dark, don't they? Huh? Oh, you see, I could see John wearing a shirt made out of these. I think that'd be really fun. But I love the black background. It just makes those colours really stand out, doesn't it? And you know, if you do go for the range, and oh, look with the spot. So it's nice to have picking out the colours, but without the bugs on there as well, just to break it up a little bit. So there's spotty ones. Is that bubbles, balloons? Again, all £5.99 for half a metre. Wendy's in bed this morning. And then finally, we have this stripe. There we go. So you can buy them on their own, or you can go for the whole bundle together. So, and again, 112 centimetres wide, and they do come joined up if you wanted to go for more than one. So if you don't like the bugs but you like the colours, you could just go for those two, couldn't you? I think the bugs are good fun though. And there's so many colours that you can pick up on as well. So if you've got a black or any of the rainbow colours we've got for you as well, you can choose anything to go with these, couldn't you? So if you want to go for the whole bundle, that's £29.49, and you will receive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 metres, so 2.5 metres in total. So you get all of that for £29.49. Oh, I'm thinking PE bags, school bags, rucksacks, pillowcases, a room makeover, child's bedroom makeover. I think that'd be so much fun. So blinds and maybe covering a lamp, maybe a light shade. That would look good, wouldn't it? Pictures on the walls, then pencil cases, little storage bags, laundry boxes. There's so much you can make with this. You could really completely make over a room with that. So again, that's £29.49. We've got 2.5 metres there in total. So what are you thinking? What are you thinking when you see fabrics like that? What are you going to make? Do you want something to coordinate with it? Because we've got all of these as well, look. So, see, oh, I like the black and white spark. Oh, now then. So, Kat put all of these together. So, in fact, that would have been the easiest job because anything goes, basically. But the yellow with the white stars, that looks really good. So that's only £3.99 for half a metre. I love that one. Look how that goes, all spotty and, oh. So that could be part of the collection, couldn't it? That works really, really well. £4.99 for the spot. And then if you wanted to go for a plain, then that'll break up the designs. So if I just slip that in between there, it actually makes them stand out a little bit more. So I wouldn't really put that, yes, actually I would put that next to that. That kind of works, doesn't it? But if you wanted to separate those a little bit, make them stand out more, then black would work really well. But there again, so, oh, wrong one. So would the purple. Actually, that'd go nicely with these, wouldn't it? Imperial, we're calling this one. Morning Dawn. Right, then we've got some, oh dear, mixing everything up. The blue, oh, that looks nice as well. Oh, I think I'd do that. That would look nice if you're making maybe a cushion cover and put some piping around it. Or if you're making a quilt and you wanted a plain board. Oh, no, use that one for the binding and cut it diagonally. That would look amazing, wouldn't it? Hi Kay, hi Anne, hi Sue Fisher. Or a darker blue you could go with. These are all by the half metre, by the way, so that's a marine blue, and again they're 100% cotton and 112 centimetres wide. Or green, we've got a few greens. So that one's emerald green. And then we've got a lime green. Oh, we're very limited on that one. I'll check out that one really, really quickly because that's going to go very quickly. Or we've got these textured blenders. So that one is chartreuse. Look, they could just go with everything. That'd be so much fun. Of course, you don't have to just buy these to go with the bundle. You can buy them on their own. How about, now this reminds me of mandarins. See, that goes really well. We've been really inventive with the name of that one. We've called it orange. And then finally, orange, plain orange, lovely. Morning, Laurie. Just morning to everyone at Sewing Street. Right, so that's those fabrics. We'd have to go through those again because I've mixed them all up. Yeah, those went with those, and that went with those. I was going to make pyjama eater, but my coat hanger is a bit too big. So I'm not going to do the silly face on it, but we will make a storage hanger for a coat hanger, but with a bigger one. So here, they're projects. It's not a teach your kids to sew kind of book, although they'd be great for younger people to make. It's things more to make for the kids. I love Monkey Skittles. We had so much fun writing this book, honestly. The kids loved it. So we've got toys, there's some educational things in here as well, and there's school bags and that kind of thing. So storage for drawing implements, for paintbrushes and pencils. This was a fun one as well. These have got magnets in them, and then the stick's got a magnet on the end of it, and the idea is that you fish for fish and ditch the crab. So you try and catch the fish, but the crabs have got magnets in them as well, but you have to avoid the crabs. So that was a nice one to make. That was loads of fun. Drawing cases, again, to keep your pencils in. That's useful. Bit of bunting for Halloween. Oh, the backpack. The front of this opens up. I'll just show you. There's like a flap that comes down, and you can keep all of your pens inside it. So there's like a double zip at the front. And you could add more pockets and things if you like. And of course, oh, that'd look great in that fabric, wouldn't it? In the bug fabric. And little Monkey Skittles. I'll tell you what I used as weights in the bottom of those as well. I don't know if I wrote that in the book. You know those like match pot, little pots of paint that you can buy when you're testing out different colours. I'd got a few of those left over, so they'd all dried up. So I stuck them in the bottom of there. And yeah, I'm recycling, you see. Hot water bottle cover. And then, well, that's a patchwork ball to knock over your Monkey Skittles. Little witch's hat. The pillow pal I thought was quite nice as well. That doll is actually kind of built into the pillow, so you've got a cushion that you can hug, and it can hug you back again. So there's a little girl one, and then I did a pirate one as well. Look at his face. Yeah, so lots of things, useful things, toys, educational things, little shoe bags. There's a pyjama eater. I thought I might encourage the kids to keep their rooms tidy. That probably won't work. Pencil case, wall hangings, decorations. That's a little caravan that you can keep your dolls in. There you go. And it's £9.99. So should we get going with that? Should we start sewing? Just catching up with you. Right, so I've got my coat hanger. And let's use some bug fabric. Half of the stock sold out, by the way, of this bundle. I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to need front and back, and then 2 lining pieces as well, and I'll put some H640 on the back of it too. So because that fits really well. Let's turn this over because I'll need to draw an outline on the back of this, like so. Right, so that goes on there like that. Then we'll have a pen somewhere. Oh, I should have organised that before, shouldn't I? Oh, got it. And I'm just going to draw around the top of the coat hanger. So from the side there, I'll need to leave a gap there and down the side there. And then I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I'm going to cut that 1/4 inch bigger all the way around. And I'm going to just go for the whole length of this. So it could be bigger, it could be smaller. So let's, I'll have a plain lining, I think, because you don't really see the inside. Should we do the green? That one? That one, right. Being advised by Elliot in my ear as to which colour to go for. So I'll need one piece of that for this side. I'll need two, one for the front and one for the back, won't I? Deborah. Right, so I'm going to cut these out all together at the same time. So let's line those up like so. And we'll fold it in half, like this, like that. Are they straight? And then I'm going to fold it in half again so I can just make sure that where I'm cutting it's going to be symmetrical. Right, so let's take our scissors. Those ones. So let's have a choice of scissors. And again, cut that just a little bit bigger all the way around. Oh, you're not good at cutting through those. Let's try you. That's better. So nice, nice thing about this kind of thing is you can use any old coat hanger you like. So, because you're not going to see it. So if you've got any kind of, you know, the plastic coat hangers, instead of throwing them away, if you're not going to use them, then, ooh, up you go there. Could have picked a smaller mat. There we go. Because I'm just going to use the rotary cutter to cut down the side there. That. And then we'll cut straight down there. Yes. I did feel like I was stealing something there. There we go. So that's in the scrap box. I need to square off the bottom as well. So this is just the 1/2 metre length, which you'll get in the mega bundle, which is going to sell out, by the way. There we go. Oh, this is satisfying. There we go. Cutting through quite a few layers there. I don't know where that came from. But if you've gone for by the 1/2 metre, of course, you can make this as long as you like. So I've got 2 pieces like this and 2 pieces of the lining. So let's take one of each. Like so, and decide where the pocket's going to be. Now obviously this has got a bar across here and it's going to fit inside like that, so I don't want the pocket to interfere with the bar, so I'm going to go about there and just cut straight across. So that's going to be the front. And there's the back. So I'm going to put some H640 on the wrong side of the outer pieces. Do I need that again? I don't think so. we do have smaller mats. Right, let's plug this in. See if I'm going down to the cellar. And swap mats. Morning, Jan. Yeah, I don't normally do Mondays. I'm normally a Sunday kind of girl. There we go. And that one, right. And then my H640. Oh, it's wet in Norwich, Susan. Right. you've made one of these already, I'd love to see pictures of them. I have seen quite a few pajama eaters over the years. Okay, let's iron this on. If you haven't used H640 before, it's a polyester non-woven fleece that is fusible on one side, and it likes steam. A lot of these don't. So turn that up. Lots of heat, lots of steam with this one, and it'll literally stick to the back of your fabric. So iron from the fabric side, not the fleece side, because it is polyester. So if you hold the iron over it too long, it's going to start to ripple a little bit. But it gives your projects a little bit of sturdiness. Careful not to get the iron on there, because we don't want to get glue on the iron. Yeah, or carpet on your iron. That was me. Oh, the carpet stunk as well. It was the little Prim Mini iron. I put it down and it fell over face down on the carpet. Yeah, I think the iron survived, but the carpet's just a mess, really. Apparently it was smelling for a few days. See, I only do 1 day a week, so I can just burn the carpet and run, and I don't have to live with the smell. So, and I've had to make 2 days this week, haven't I? In effect, because today and on Sunday. Morning, Laurie. Oh, we've been there, haven't we? Oh, I haven't scrolled down. Oh, Kim, you can't have that jacket, but you could make one. Yeah, on the long list. Oh, is Monty soggy? See, I can't walk Bobbin in the rain. She's terrified of it. Okay, right. We're nearly there. Don't bear with me. This makes a difference, though. Taking your time adding the backing to this. A soggy doggy Monty Cockapoo. Oh, g'day, Kate. Amanda's with us as well. Foggy in Northamptonshire. Oh, hi, Marilyn. Just popped up on Facebook. Oh, you're being idle. Well, you know. Right, let's cut these out. Oh, by the way, the mega bundle's sold out now. So if you wanted any particular fabrics from the bundle, you can buy them by the ½ metre. But the big bundle's now gone. So you could make up your own bundle. So you've got the details on the screen for this one. And, oh, with that early bird, oh, we had hundreds. The best press early bird, over half of the stock sold out now. Let's cut that down there. Go. Right. So if you can use your best press when you're using H640 as well. Actually, it might be quite nice because it'll soak in and dry more, won't it? And then you've still got that fragrance. Lovely. Okay, let's cut around these, and then we'll start putting this thing together. There we go. So I like to kind of get it stuck down in the middle. And avoid getting the iron onto the H640, and then just go around the edge afterwards. It's not the end of the world if it isn't stuck down, because obviously I'm sewing it, so it's going to be trapped in the seam allowance anyway. And if you do have fabric start to ripple a little bit in the middle, while it's warm, you can just peel the fleece away and then reposition it. So good idea to actually start ironing in the middle. Don't push it, because then you could kind of force the wrinkles, but just smooth it out, and then just one quick press around the edge just to secure it. Wendy's asked if there's a sew-in equivalent for H640. There are, I think Bose will do a sew-in version. We don't have them here. But of course you don't have to iron it. So if you prefer just to use it and sew it in, then you can do. Morning, Lakbia in Kenya. So we're all multi-international here. Right. So how far away are you? Kenya, Australia, in the gallery next door? Right, so I'm going to take the two front pieces. So there's the top lining and the top outer fabric. And we're going to sew these right sides together just across the bottom of the top and across the top of the bottom. Right. So let's do this. Did that make sense? So the bottom of the top and the top of the bottom. Right, there we go. You could put a zip in it if you haven't done that before now. But hanger storage like this is quite nice if you're a little bit short on space, because you can hang your jacket over the top of it still, but then you can maybe keep a scarf inside it that matches, or if you've got a favourite piece of jewellery or something, just organise your wardrobe a little bit. And that's the top of the bottom. And it's good to make the most of areas that you normally ignore. Like look, the back of doors. Back of door storage, back of chair storage. Because it doesn't actually take up very much space. The inside of your wardrobe, door storage. That'll do. And then we're going to turn this over. Lisa's watching in the car as a passenger. She says it makes the journey better. Well, that's nice, thank you. Oh, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave a little bit of a border at the top there. That won't make any difference to the size, but it just finishes it up a little bit, doesn't it? And then we'll top stitch there. Where are we? Oh, got time. So let's do the same with this one. And that folds under that way. Like so. So I'm just going to top stitch just to hold those pieces together. Might be an idea as well to put maybe a button and a hair bunger or something to fasten it, just in case it gapes at the front. But we can do that afterwards. You would make a nice peg bag, wouldn't it? A bug peg bag. Just lengthen that stitch a bit. So, oh, a contrasting thread would look good as well, wouldn't it? So maybe I should have put green in there. There, and across this one. Indigo. Fancy stitches on your sewing machine. Some machines have got bug stitches on them. So you could make a little row of bugs across the bottom. Or leaves, maybe. A lot of decorative stitches are leaves. Ooh, that one wobbly. There we go. Then let's put it together. So we need the lining. So this is how it's going to go. That goes there. And that goes there. So those need to be right sides together. And then that's going to go on the top there. And that's going to go on the bottom there. So the first thing we're going to do is sew this piece, so right sides together. I've got the backing and I've got the the front. Sew them right sides together just across the bottom. Now because I left that little turnover at the top, I've got a bit of extra fabric down here, so I'm just going to trim that down. That's fine, it won't make any difference. And I've probably got the same here. It won't make any difference to the size whatsoever. In fact, that's fine like that. Okay, so just these two together, straight across the bottom. So. It's the machine slowed down a little bit because of the thickness of the, going up a little bit, of the wadding. It causes a bit of friction underneath the foot and slows it down. So I've lengthened the stitch a little bit, and I'm also spreading it out a little bit. If I had a walking foot on my machine, I'd put it on now to feed all of the layers through evenly. But I don't, so I'm just easing it. So I'm not pulling it away from the needle, I'm just easing it through so it feeds all at the same time. And that's that. So that's the front and the back sewn together across the bottom. And then we'll sew all of the rest of it. So I'm going to put the top bit right sides together over the top. And then the lining on top. So we'll have a few pins in there with with the pins that have been colour coordinated. That was Kat just being a little bit too tidy, I think. Hey, Kat. Oh. She's itching now to come out of the gallery and rearrange that so it's right. All right, have a few pins to hold these together. Oh, is that Suzanne? Oh, Suzanne's peg bag is giving up the ghost after 25 years. 25 years of faithful service. Right, now I'm going to sew all the way around, but leave a gap in the bottom, right? So that's so I can turn it all the right side out. So we'll start at the side of where the gap's going to be. And we'll do a bit of backwards and forwards. And away we go. I'll also need to leave, oh, that was too close to the edge, a gap at the top so I can get the coat hanger in. And you probably won't, because the number of times, or the number of these that I've made and the number of times I've sewn straight over the gap. But you can always just unpick a little bit afterwards if you need to. So around the curves, you can see they're starting to bunch up a bit. So I'm just going to, again, pull that to smooth it out a little bit. So around to the top. And like nice Christmas gifts as well, wouldn't they, if you're doing a homemade Christmas? Have I gone past it yet? Yes, I think I have. I think I might have to unpick a bit of the gap because I overestimated that. We'll see what happens. Around here. Just making sure I've got all the layers there as well. Because it does tend to move a little bit sometimes. That's it. And then let's just ease this out. As we go back down again, don't sew over your pins. So again, you've got quite a thickness of fabric there. So it may seem as though your machine's running a little bit slower. And back down to the gap, which I'm going to leave there. Right. Then we'll see if I've got all of the layers together in the right way. Because I've got that wrong a few times as well. Sorry, Kat, they're just going to go in anywhere. I think it's like a little stress ball, isn't it? There. Then I'm going to trim or snip into the curved bit, just to make the seam sit a little bit flatter. Again, make sure did I miss that bit? No, oh I did, I missed a bit there. And then cut off the corners as well. Always as well to check. So that's what happens when you rush. I'll go back over that. Alright, have I missed any more bits? No, that's it. See, I ask myself questions and I can answer them as well. Then we'll turn it the right side out. And when you turn it through the right side out, it'll still look like it's inside out. That will make sense in a minute. There will be a little bit of hand sewing going on here. I'm not going to do that now. So when you turn it through, you get that. So it still looks inside out. And at this point, that's where you're going to hand sew. Reason being, if you try and machine sew that closed, it can interfere with the seam on the outside when we turn that through. And then let's turn it back this way, like so. And this one. Oh, Julie's retired today officially, and it's a birthday as well. Happy birthday to you and congratulations. It was my grandson's birthday yesterday. As in, literally, the day he was born. He's got here at last. 2 days late, but he's here. Right, I shan't see him for a while, you know, but seen the pictures. He's so pretty. Right, so that would have been sewn by hand. So we've got this. That may need a little something to close it because it's quite wide, but we'll have a look in a minute. And then we'll have to see if the whole thing works. So if you manoeuvre this around so you can get the hook through the hole. I'm not going to sew that opening closed. Come on. Where are you? Did I not leave a hole in the lining? Oh, thanks, Alex. Say congratulations on my new grandson. Right, hook goes through there. That'll fit nice and snugly inside there. And again, I wouldn't, you can hand sew that little bit if you wanted to, but what I would do personally is to tie a piece of ribbon around it and then maybe put a spot of Gutermann HT2 glue to hold that in place. And then you've got something that you can store your bits and bobs in and hang it up wherever you want to. Back of the door, in your wardrobe, end of the bed. Thanks, Linda. And you've got that. That kind of worked, didn't it? I really like that. Yeah. And again, if you're going to put something heavy in there, it may gape at the front. So a little, I'd put a button and a bungee or a piece of ribbon just to tie that over. Really easy. Okay, so I made this from one piece of the new collection of bug fabric, Bugs and Critters fabric that we have. The bundles sold out completely. You can go for these by the half metre, but half of the stock of this particular one has sold out. And I've used this with the textured blender with the chartreuse behind it as well. So that's that one. This is going home with Elliot apparently. But we do have other colours as well. So see, you could make, I could have put a pocket on the front, couldn't I? Yes. And I could use a little bit of the green fabric that's left over, and then maybe make it into a larger pocket. So. Because these are only little squares, they're about 3 inches square. So you could kind of, so I don't want to cut into another piece. So let's do that, let's do that. Let's do that, and that, and that. So you could make a pocket just out of one of those, but put a green border around it, so it really stands out. I think that'd look really good. I love these books. They look like they should be in a Disney film. It's a bug's life, isn't it? So this is the leaves. Again, these are all by the half metre. So if you wanted to make a matching pair of curtains, they will come to you all joined up. That would look really well. Or you can make a few of these. You could have a whole collection of coat hanger storage. Thanks, Sonia. Do you know, I'm just going to turn the iron off. That's it. We could make one of those. So I'm hearing in my ear, you could make a suit cover. There's one of those, and I've done that in a book. So useful. Maybe we could do that in one of the shows, because that's using a coat hanger again, but a zip going this way down the front, and that would work. Oh, that's for another day. I haven't got enough time now. This is the spots. So this is the only one I'm on my own today, isn't it? Because we've got Susan Briscoe coming up. Oh, I might get to finish my coffee. Look, I'm nowhere near. So we've got Susan Briscoe coming up in the next show. We are launching her brand new book. So the probability is you'll get yours before anybody else, because it's not officially being published until tomorrow. So if you've seen it on any of the bookstore kind of websites, they won't be signed and they won't be going out today. So, and that's it. So we'll have a chat about that in the next hour. Then Wendy's with us, and we're going to be doing some quilting and binding. And then Susan's back again with more Sashiko. And then Wendy's back again on Yarn Lane. That's going to be my first Yarn Lane. Oh, then there's the stripe. And I think, was that it with these? I love that stripy one. I'm just thinking that would make a really nice border, wouldn't it? The whole thing would make a very unusual quilt. And you know, very simple as well, because you only need to cut them into squares. I wouldn't even bother patchworking that, to be honest. Maybe just squares. Right, so this one, NVYH 97. We don't have any writing on the screen at the moment, I'm afraid. I'm blaming the fog. Well, why not? We do have plain fabrics to coordinate as well, so have a look on the website on sewingstreet.com. We've got a whole rainbow of plain fabrics. They're only £3.99 for half a metre. So if you're making curtains, maybe like a contrasting lining. If you're making cushion covers, you can put a border around it. If you're making a quilt, then you've got your backing. Or we've got the extra wide quilt fabric as well. So if you're making a full-size quilt, then we've got the wider backing on there as well. So have a look on sewingstreet.com. That's going to be the best place to be. Are we all up to date here with everybody? There's so many watching. This was 116 of you. Your names pop up when you're watching, so that's quite nice. So we've got Norma, and we've got Burke and Janine and Philippa and Belinda. If you do have any questions, by the way, come and ask on Facebook, ask on the website, ask on YouTube, or drop us an email. So if you've got any questions for Susan coming up in the next hour, or Wendy coming up later on, then do come and let me know. Actually, extra wide backing fabric goes really well with the bugs, doesn't it? And this is squiggly. I'll show you how wide it is. Obviously, that's half a metre. It doesn't have to be backing for a quilt. It would make a great lining for curtains, or you're just getting lots and lots of fabric. So that's that, and that, and that. This used to fill the whole of the last studio, didn't it? So we have all of this, all of that. That's going to take some folding up now, isn't it? So again, £8.99 for half a metre. So if you don't want to see seams at the back of your quilt or your curtain linings, then this is the one to go for. Morning, Sylvie. Thank you, Susan. Oh, we've had a picture from Julie. we can't show it, Julie. We've got technical difficulties this morning. Kat says it's beautiful. It's out of the Bugs and Critters fabric. I'll have to have a look in the break. But thank you for sending that over. We've got a bit of an issue this morning. I shan't unfold these, but you get the idea as to the size. So that's the scribbly one. We've also got the checks in 2 colours on this one. So there's the green and we've got the navy blue as well. And again, they're £8.99 for your ½ metre. So that's the green, we're calling that green, French green, and then you've got the navy. It's 100% cotton, not just for backings. You've just got an incredibly wide piece of fabric. I'm thinking that would make a nice pair of trousers, actually. Or, yes, a work skirt or a blouse or a shirt, whatever you like. And again, that's £8.99 for ½ metre. Right, well, hi Helen, hi Diane, hi Gillian, hi Marion. We're going to take a quick break, and remember, in the next hour we have Susan Briscoe in the building with her brand new book. If you haven't seen Susan before, we're going to go right back to basics and have a chat about her, how she comes up with the ideas and the inspiration, and then she's going to be demonstrating some techniques as well. So that's going to be right after the break. So another cuppa, I think, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street, and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So, number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual. Always keep it to hand, because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick and pick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. If you want more hints and tips, then why not go to Sewing Street on channel 74 on Freeview, on Sky 670, and of course we have a YouTube channel where you can catch up on previous demonstrations. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Sam from Adventures in Crafting. I'm a craft and crochet teacher based in Tring in Hertfordshire. Since lockdown, I've moved all of my classes onto Zoom, so I now have customers from all over the country. I teach lots of crafts, but crochet is my specialism. I became passionate about crochet when I was pregnant with my 4th child and in desperate need of some me time. Crochet became my sanctuary and I've crocheted every day since then. I'm a qualified teacher, and 8 years ago I began teaching crochet. I love sharing my passion with other people. I design patterns, sell kits and teach lots of classes. My classes range from beginners to next steps, specific makes and clubs. I also like to design crochet alongs. My most recent one was my Autumn Granny Square crochet along, which resulted in me designing this allotment jumper, which I love to wear when I'm out gardening and looking after my chickens. My crochet tip for you is to enjoy it. Crochet should be about taking part in a hobby that brings you pleasure. My claim to fame is that I met Kirsty Allsop at the Handmade Fair and I gave her one of my crochet sunflower brooches. I'm so excited to be taking part in Yarn Lane and I hope you'll enjoy my demonstrations.
Hello, I'm Kerry from Living in Loveliness and I'm delighted to be part of the Sewing Street team. I'm based in Wolverhampton and I absolutely love working with fabulous fabrics. In particular, I love working with fat quarters and showing you how to get the most from your scraps. I love bringing communities of sewists together and encouraging people to sew for greater causes. Most recently, we have been sewing for our NHS and key workers. I look forward to bringing you hints, tips and techniques. I'll see you soon.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual, always keep it to hand because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick and pick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. If you want more hints and tips, then why not go to Sewing Street on channel 74 on Freeview, on Sky 670, and of course we have a YouTube channel where you can catch up on previous demonstrations. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Sam from Adventures in Crafting. I'm a craft and crochet teacher based in Tring in Hertfordshire. Since lockdown, I've moved all of my classes onto Zoom, so I now have customers from all over the country. I teach lots of crafts, but crochet is my specialism. I became passionate about crochet when I was pregnant with my 4th child and in desperate need of some me time. Crochet became my sanctuary and I've crocheted every day since then. I'm a qualified teacher and 8 years ago I began teaching crochet. I love sharing my passion with other people. I design patterns, sell kits and teach lots of classes. My classes range from beginners to next steps, specific makes and clubs. I also like to design crochet alongs. My most recent one was my Autumn Granny Square crochet along, which resulted in me designing this allotment jumper, which I love to wear when I'm out gardening and looking after my chickens. My crochet tip for you is to enjoy it. Crochet should be about taking part in a hobby that brings you pleasure. My claim to fame is that I met Kirsty Allsop at the Handmade Fair and I gave her one of my crochet sunflower brooches. I'm so excited to be taking part in Yarn Lane and I hope you'll enjoy my demonstrations.
Hi there, welcome back again. Now this is exciting, isn't it? We have the launch of Susan Briscoe's brand new book. This is the book of Boro. I'm going to flick through this really quickly so you can have a glimpse of what's on the inside and then go straight over to Susan so that she can explain a little bit about who is she, why is she here? What's she written a book for? We'll find out in just a second. I love the images in here. I think when you first have a look through, it's just, I don't know, it's interesting just to flick through, look at the different images before you even look in the at the different techniques and projects in there as well. We're still having issues, aren't we? Those graphics, I don't know. We can survive this. So look at all these projects. We've got that one in the studio, haven't we? So again, brand new. These will be signed for you too. So this isn't actually officially published until tomorrow. So you're hopefully going to get this ahead of everybody else as well. And a gorgeous jacket. So again, if you've got any questions, if you want to come through and have a chat with Susan in the show, she's here for a couple of hours as well, so you'll be able to do that. If you think at the end of this hour I should have asked this, that, or the other, then you can come back again later on as well. There you go. Look, £14.39 is your price if you would like to place your order. I would do that sooner rather or later because we have a limited amount of books that are actually signed. So if you want the special edition, then it is rather a limited edition there as well. We've matched the price and taken 10% off as well. I didn't think we were allowed to do that, but we've done it anyway. Okay, let me introduce you to Susan. Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, I'm still setting up all my bits and pieces over here because we've got so many different things today. Hi, it's great to be here.
It's nice to have you here. So I'm really excited to do the show with you. Tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Well, the whole Japanese thing, it really goes back to when I worked as an English teacher in Japan, it's now 30 years ago. I can't believe it's so long ago.
So you're an English teacher?
I went on a thing called the JET programme, which is Japan Exchange Teaching, and my degree wasn't in English, it was visual art and drama, and I specialised in costume design. And the chance came to go on and teach English in Japan. And I was absolutely fascinated by Japan. I was fascinated by Japanese art, really. And that was what got me, so interested in the country. And I ended up in a very small town in the north of Japan called Yuzamachi. It's a really charming place in Yamagata Prefecture. And it was there that I learned how to sew kimono in my neighbour's kimono shop. So a lot of things started from there. And that's also where I later on learned the Sashiko as well. My big introduction to Sashiko was through what they call Shonai Sashiko, which is hitomezashi. It means one-stitch Sashiko, and it looks a bit like blackwork in reverse, but I'm sure a lot of you have already seen me do that on this show before, or you've got my books or whatever. But also the whole thing about the Boro, my interest in it goes back to those days. We had a little sort of curiosity shop. I wouldn't really call it an antique shop per se, in Yuza. And I used to have to go past this little shop every day on my way to teach in one of the junior high schools on my bicycle. And it always looked really interesting. It had a window crammed full of all sorts of things, but it never seemed to be open. And I was going past one Saturday and it was. So I thought, I'll pop in, have a nosy around. And the chap who owned it was there with a couple of his friends, and they didn't seem to be at all interested in selling anything, really. They gave me a cup of tea, started showing me things from the shop. And, he'd show me something. Oh, yeah, you're the English teacher who does tea ceremony, aren't you? Well, I've got this tea ceremony incense holder, and it's got a little crack in it, so I can't sell it to anybody. Would you like it? And he starts giving me all these things in the shop. And then the pièce de résistance was he got this bin bag full of fabric. And he said to me, oh, and you're also learning how to sew kimono at Obiya, the kimono shop, aren't you? And I'll just turn that around because I just realised I had it the wrong way around. So he gave me this bag of fabric. He said, you might be able to do something with this because we've heard you like patchwork as well. And I had a quick look inside the bag and I couldn't get out of the shop quickly enough because it seemed to be full of old Japanese blue and white textiles and things like that. It looked really fantastic. So I put it on the back of my bike, wheeled my bike home. When I got home, I opened it out. And amongst the various old things in it, there were a couple of work coats that had these interesting little patched repairs on them. And that was actually my first introduction to what people now refer to as Boro. So it all goes back to that. And Boro, in Japanese, Boro means rag or rubbish or something not worth anything, really. It doesn't specifically mean textile. It means something worn out and old. And what we think of now as Boro textiles are mostly things like work clothes and old futon covers and things like that have been patched and patched and patched. And it's become, well, a lot of people have become very, very interested in the last few years. I've written a whole history section in the book, actually, to sort of take you through all of this, which explains about, museums and significant exhibitions that there have been about it and collectors and some of the old pieces. So, yeah, it's just become incredibly popular. I've ended up collecting more and more of it because on trips back to Japan, I've found a lot of really interesting old pieces that just sort of spoke to me, really, I suppose is the best way of describing it. And they're like a mixture of patchwork and patching and rips and holes, and the textures are just absolutely out of this world. It's something that it sort of speaks to your heart almost, really. So for a while I've wanted to do a book about it, and now I have. We've taken items out of my own collection. I'm going to show you some of those in this next hour. And some of them are quite odd, quite strange things. And we've taken the sort of the features of them, and I've made projects that we would actually want to use that are inspired by them. So instead of, say, a raggy old kimono, I've made a table runner that was inspired by the way the raggy old kimono was patched. And similar things to that, really, or a piece of fabric which has come out of an old futon cover, which to me always looks a little bit like some sort of weird landscape. So I thought, well, I'll take the idea of that and I'll make a landscape picture based on it. So that was the idea behind the book.
So with it's ever so busy for this book, by the way.
Oh, are we? I'm not surprised.
With the customers that are home that are obviously interested, what kind of fabrics, because they're not going to be able to find the fabrics that you've got, what should they use?
You can use all sorts of fabrics actually for it. I have got a big bag full of scraps, which in a dramatic moment later on in this hour I'm going to tip out on the table and I'll talk you through it all. Some of them are genuine old Japanese fabrics. Some of them are Japanese patchwork fabrics. And there is actually one of my husband's old shirts in there as well, because an awful lot of sort of checky and striped shirts, those sort of materials that you might find, in a charity shop, they're absolutely perfect for Boro. And in fact, one of the projects I've got here, I made out of an old pair of trousers of mine. I had a pair of linen trousers, and I tie-dyed them, and they got ripped eventually. So yeah, I rejigged those into the table runner. So you can use all sorts of stuff for it. A lot of the old pieces, of course, have a lot of blue in them, because this is the fabrics that were, people actually had access to. Yeah. But also a lot of browns and reds. Loads and loads of different fabrics. But mostly the old pieces tend to be cotton, hemp, linen, that kind of thing. That's why when I saw those gorgeous cotton and linen blends on the website, I said we've got to have those on the show. They're perfect. And of course the Olympus stripes as well. And I also spotted that lime green and the bright blue one. I thought, well, some of the pieces I've got quite bright colours in them as well, little flashes of colour. So yeah, let's have those too.
If you have a look on the website under pre-order, it's the textured linens. They're all there on the website if you wanted to go for any of these.
And for the threads, I've mostly used Sashiko threads as well. When you look at old pieces of Boro, and I've looked at a lot of these in minute detail, you find that they're normally stitched with thread that looks like either a medium or a fine Sashiko thread. It's usually something a little bit thicker than normal sewing thread. So that's what I've used as well. So again, we've got a selection of Sashiko threads for you today, if you want to use those.
Sashiko thread's different to embroidery thread then?
They are. They're a little bit like something like a cotton perlé. More like a cotton brode. They're not stranded. You don't split them.
Right.
The ones that you've got there actually are all 6-ply threads.
Okay.
I think I've used 6-ply, 4-ply and 3-ply in the book. But it honestly does not matter what you're going to use on each project, really. I've even got, there were some little coasters and a placemat that I did. This is one of the little projects. Well, actually, I did this as a group thing with my students. Everybody stitched little bits for it, and I made some little coasters, or they made some little coasters. I probably didn't stitch these ones. Which one? Did I do that one? Can't remember. And we put them all together, and then I just sewed some of them together to make a little cloth. Sorry, I should have put that a bit more over that sort of way, really. And that was actually done with double knitting cotton.
Oh, really?
That was a bit harder to get through, though. That was inspired by the work of a modern Japanese stitcher called Akiko Ike. And she uses this very, very thick thread, and her work is inspired by old Boro pieces, but done in a much more colourful way. There's a little bit about her in the history section as well. So we sort of did these like hearse kind of style. So you can use all sorts of things, all sorts of different threads, really.
Would something like that be a good starting place for somebody that's never used the technique before?
Yeah, you could do a little piece like that. Yeah. I've given all of the different techniques actually in the book. Like I say, what I did, well, first of all, should we sort of zip through the book? There's an introduction which kind of explains how I got into it in the first place and a little bit about what Boro is. And then we've got a history section, and throughout the history section we've illustrated it with pieces from my collection. I brought some of them into the studio today, so I'll hold those up in a minute. You can see some of them as well. And we've looked at how Boro, the history of Boro has been documented and written about by various different collectors, such as Chizaburo Tanaka, who was the chap whose collection used to be shown at the Amuse Museum in Tokyo. And, you know, it's through the work of people like him Mr. Morita at the Morita Gallery in Tokyo, you know, who collected this stuff and then exhibited it. And that's really sort of what's brought it into like the public consciousness, really, I think. Anyway, we've covered the whole of the history that I could find there, and we've sort of dug back into what used to happen. Lots of pictures of old pieces that I've put in here, including, well, not just pieces of Boro. We've also got some, what I might call extreme Boro. We've got a piece of Sakuri ragweave, and we've also got a piece of rope that was made out of it as well. People used to make all kinds of things out of the old fabrics. It goes back to times when, you know, fabrics were scarce. In the far north of Japan, people couldn't get hold of new stuff, they couldn't afford it. The whole of history is given anyway. And so they just got very, very, very resourceful about how they used fabric. So we've got that. And then we go into tools and materials. And unlike something like patchwork, or I suppose you could argue you don't need a lot of equipment for patchwork, you don't really need very much of this at all. A pair of scissors and some thread and a needle. I tend to use the Sashiko needles. I think we've got some over there as well. I tend to use Sashiko needles because you do need something that's pretty strong as a needle and very sharp to get those thicker threads through your fabrics. And if you've got fabrics a little bit loosely woven, like I mentioned before, a lot of striped shirting fabrics, you know, things sort of like men's casual shirts, check shirts, stuff like that. Old linen trousers, linen and cotton blends. A lot of the things that we have, you know, as wearable fabrics, as clothing fabrics, are actually quite suitable. So, you know, raid your wardrobe, raid your husband's wardrobe. If things are not actually blue, you can always stick it in a load of real indigo dye, or you can always just over dye it in the washing machine, you know, with a packet of Dye-Lon, whatever you like. There's, well, that's how I did the trousers that I made in the table runner. But we go into a technique section, and I've looked very closely at the old pieces and all the different techniques they've used. There's not actually that many, and most of them involve running stitch or very, very basic applique. And what often appeals to us today is the back of an old piece of Boro rather than the front. Sometimes people say, oh, you know, Boro, oh yes, that's visible mending. Well, actually, if you look at the old pieces that I've got, you'll find that most of the time people really tried to match the fabric. Actually, can I just jump away from the book for one moment? I've got a piece here that's lurking on the top. This is shown in the book, and I used it as the inspiration for the bag that's actually directly underneath it. Well, I'll show you the front of it first. This is part of an old futon cover. I'll just plonk this out over the table. Whoops. I can do that. It's big, sorry. Oop, there we go. And you can see it actually has quite a lot of patched bits on it. If I pull it around, I can see it on the preview screen at the moment. You know, here, if we switch over, you know, there's a little patch there, there's a little patch there.
It looks like part of the design though, doesn't it?
Yes, that's it. The person who's repaired this, and originally it was a piece of what you call kasuri, which is Japanese double ikat. They have taken another piece of fabric and they've thought, oh, that won't show too much. You know, I've got a little hole, there's one here, there's a teeny, 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 weeny hole, and it's got a little tiny, actually looks like it's been patched twice. It's got a tiny little bit of dark fabric behind it, so it's not so obvious. So the whole piece is heavily patched like that, and there are other places on it where obviously the person who had this originally thought it's going to wear through there, I'd better patch it. So when you turn that, would have been the front, and when you turn it over and you look at how it is on the back, it's a whole other story. And nowadays, when people are collecting Boro, they tend to like the back. They find the back more interesting than the front. So again, if we go on the overhead camera, you can see, you know, some of those tiny little bits I pointed to in the middle, that's what it looks like on the back. Lots and lots and lots of overlapping different pieces. But from the front, you can't really tell quite so much. You know, like I said, it goes back to a time, really, when people hadn't got an awful lot in farming areas. A lot of the pieces that were collected by Tanaka for his collection, they came from Aomori Prefecture, and they came from, you know, mountain communities. They would have, well, the whole story is given in the book anyway, but what women used to do, they would get together and they would buy these sort of bales of second-hand fabric which had come from the south of Japan. We're talking like, you know, 100, 120, 150 years ago. They get to club together, get all this fabric, because they couldn't afford to buy a whole second-hand kimono. They would buy the scrappy bits, and then they would spit it out, wash it, clean it up, and make it into something else. So it's incredibly resourceful. And this piece of fabric inspired this bag, which ended up in the book too. I'll just drag it up a little bit. Actually, on my website, which is susanbriscoe.com, there is a link to a similar bag that I made a few years ago, which was for a book that the V&A had out. And they put it up as a free PDF of that chapter on their website. But you see here, I've taken the look of the old cloth that's behind it, and I've interpreted it as a bag. The way I've made the bag is I've just, I've had a piece of fabric and I've kept layering the pieces on and stitching them on.
Oh.
And then added more stitching to it and more stitching to it. These are all raw edge pieces as well. They've got a lot more stitching over them than on the old futon cover, because obviously on the old futon cover these patches were on the inside, and this is going to be a shopping bag. And yeah, I am going to use it, and I have started using things out of the book already. This is what happens to them, you know. You make something, you start using it, and the nice thing with Boro is the more you use it, the more worn, the more loved and handled it tends to look. And that's really when it kind of becomes Boro. I've called all the pieces in the book Boro inspired, because you can't sort of make a piece of Boro, in my mind, you can't make it completely from scratch.
Yeah.
Particularly, you know, if you're working with slightly newer fabrics or better quality fabrics, things that haven't already got damage on them. There's no reason why you shouldn't. I've mixed the two. So the lining for this was all new. The stuff on the outside is a mixture of, there's some old Japanese fabrics very similar to the ones that are on the cloth, and there's also some bits of gosh, that's a piece of quite new Moda fabric. It was a bit of striped fabric. And there's a few pieces here which are offcuts from me doing some of my Sashiko. So I've just mixed it all together. I've kept all the edges raw, and then I've just stitched up and down, and your running stitches don't have to be perfect. That's the really great thing about it. In fact, the more uneven they look, in a way, the more like old Boro it looks.
So you've made all of that by hand?
Yeah.
Do you use a sewing machine?
Well, actually, yeah, I do. I do. And it does actually explain in the introduction to the book that I have used the machine to do things, just to speed things up a bit, to sew things where you won't actually see the machine sewing afterwards. So all of the panel of this was done by hand, and then I machine sewed the side seams and the little boxed out bit at the bottom. But then I've whip stitched over it by hand.
Yeah.
So you can't see that the machine sewing, so it looks like it's hand sewn. But you could hand sew it all if you wanted to.
I would imagine it's a really relaxing.
It is.
They call it mindful. I say mindless kind of thing, because you just lose yourself in it, don't you?
It is really. It's something you can get completely lost in. There was, well, the small version of that bag. I haven't brought absolutely everything, because honestly we'd have been here until tomorrow morning if I had. But the small version of the bag that I've just shown you, because there's like a mini project and a big version of each thing in the book as well. The mini version of it, I think, I watched it watching something like The Alien. We had a DVD on anyway. I just sat there and just stitched. And you don't have to concentrate as much as you do when you're doing the Sashiko, you see. You can just stitch away.
But didn't you get a wobbly bit when the alien came out of its stomach?
Well, no, I've seen it loads of times. But, you know, and these, I've got another little bag here. And you see, this one's got, that's the mini version that I made. I did actually do the mini version. I've pieced the mini version in strips. And then I put a few extra little patches and things on it. And this one is made in a similar kind of technique to this, but it starts out in a completely different shape, and of course this little drawstring bag. And I did put you know, machine-made cords on there. Sometimes I make my own cords, and it wasn't until after I'd done the book I found a whole load of selvage strips knocking about my workroom, and I thought, right, well, I'm going to make some bag cords out of those. So that is just.
How did you make those? Is it plaited?
Well, they're 3 scrap strips. Just plaited together, and they were only about 1/4 of an inch wide. I've got a bit stretched to them as well, actually. And if I'd thought about it earlier, you see, I would have used them as a drawstring on that bag. But yeah, I plaited those, and you're probably thinking, well, where did you get the idea of, you know, plaiting the bits of selvage together? And I'll show you. And it was it was this that gave me the idea. This is actually a bundle of rope. It's been made by plaiting old pieces of fabric together, and I bought this quite cheap actually from a flea market in Japan. It's half of the bundle, but it's just a whole load of ropes that someone's plaited together. They made all sorts of things, you see, out of rags.
So what's she going to do with those?
I don't know, I think probably turn them into something a bit more decorative and hang them up high on the wall or something. I'll plonk that on the floor for now, actually, down here.
Actually, it's really durable, isn't it? You could make rugs out
Yeah,
of them.
it is. Well, it was the idea behind this.
Yeah.
But there's like a mini version of it. Yeah, so all sorts of things. I mean, some of the projects that I did in the book, oh yes, we've got a few of them hanging up. The one that's on the taller figure form over there. I don't know if we can have a little look at that. Can the camera see it? Yeah? Oh, I'm pointing.
We're getting over there.
I think at the moment you're in front of it on the screen, aren't you? So that you can't actually see it. Oh, there it is. I can see it now in the preview. That's absolutely wonderful. That is probably the most time-consuming project in the book, but I absolutely love doing it. And it's based on a thing called a yogi, which is essentially a sleeping quilt, really, in the shape of a kimono. And this is something that was made quite a lot, out of... I just realised I'm talking about the old one there, and the new one is actually behind me.
Right.
It's something that people used to make a lot out of Boro.
So that's an original one?
That is the original one, yeah. And I just realised now we hung up the modern one behind me, the one that's actually in the book, that where we show you how to make it.
So this one's really heavy,
That
isn't it?
that one weighs an absolute ton.
What's on the inside of it?
It's got very thick cotton wadding in that. There's quite a few rips and holes in it as well where it's starting to come through. And the fabric it's made from is a material called zanshiori, which means leftover thread weaving. And it's where hand weavers used to take all their threads and weave them together, sort of making like an endlessly variable plaid. So when I made my version of it that's actually hanging up behind me, I thought, well, the principle of it's great. The original yogi is probably a little bit too thick for what we'd want in a modern house, because old Japanese houses didn't have central heating, like we've got. So I thought I'll make a version of it which is basically like a sort of snuggly sofa throw that you can wear. And so here's my version. I'll just step back a little bit and show it off a tiny bit more. The old one is tied, it's not quilted through all the layers. So I've used slightly brighter thread. I used turquoise, the old one's got green on it, I think. And the fabric that I used for the main part here, this is a piece I got from textile traders at Bishop's Castle over in Shropshire. And that was actually woven in Thailand, but it's modern fabric, but it looks like an old piece of zanshiori. Yeah. The threads just keep changing all the way through. And then down at the bottom, whoops, I'll hold that up. We're going to show this off a bit more in the next hour. This is a reproduction of a kind of Japanese fabric, and it's called katazome, which means stencil dye. And this sort of stuff now is made for quilting, and it's made for people making all kinds of crafts and things like that. So you can get a lot of fabrics that look like the old stuff. Oh, and the bit at the bottom, I don't know, we haven't got that stripe, but we have some similar ones. You can find similar kinds of fabrics if you just look around.
Yeah.
Those ones are all by Olympus, the stripes that we've got on the show today. And then inside, for the lining, I did that as a patchwork. And these are all bits recycled out of old kimono linings. But you get a similar sort of look, just taking a whole load of blue shirts or, blue patchwork fabrics, putting them all together. It looked very, very much like that. We're going to get my husband on in the second hour actually wearing that and also wearing the jacket that's on the other figure form over there. But I've got a mini version of one of those yogi right here. I'll tell you what, I'll put it down like that in the middle on the table, and you can maybe sort of do an overhead shot. Oh, I've done it the wrong way around. I always forget with this camera, it's seeing things the same way as me. This is, as you can see, it's absolutely tiny. This would probably fit Barbie, I would think. And it's very, very thick. And it's what they call hinagata. And the idea with hinagata was it was a way of teaching girls how to sew things at school. So they made essentially like sort of doll-sized minis. I'll move it over a bit there, it's better, you can see the whole thing. They made almost like doll-sized minis of the real thing. So I took the concept of the hinagata and I kept that in mind all the way through the book when I was making the small, so almost like a taster version of the big project. So that's the original hinagata, and that's my little hinagata. Mine's actually a teeny bit, mine would definitely fit Barbie. It's a teeny weeny bit smaller, but it is essentially made in exactly the same way as the big one. I'll turn that round. Here we
That's
go.
amazing.
And I decided to tie it with fine Sashiko thread. That's a 3-ply Sashiko thread. It's a bit like a number 12 cotton, similar sort of thickness to that. And I've just done these little knotted ties all over the back of it. And actually, it would, in the book, it's shown hanging up inside of a picture frame. I think we showed it which way round. I think we showed it that way round in the book. We just got a big sort of 20-inch picture frame from IKEA, covered the backing board in fabric, made a little loop at the top and got a small piece of wood dowel. You pop the piece of wood dowel through this, stick it through the loop, take it through the other side. It hangs inside the box frame. It's
What a
really
lovely
cute.
idea.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, that's a small version of one of the bigger projects. This is going to end up, you know, every time I come in here, it ends up that the work table is total chaos, total chaos. This little piece here, I'll tell you, I'll just move that picture away for a moment and put that down. There's a cushion standing up there, which is like a box cushion. I actually made that to fit a Japanese stool that we've got at home. And that was inspired by this little child's kimono. Hold it up like that, maybe, if you can see it. Now, this isn't actually an old piece. It was made by a Japanese textile collector called Izuho Horiuchi. She was a big collector of the double ikat, you know, the kasuri fabrics and old checks and plaids. So the fabrics in this, they're pretty much, nearly all of them are completely hand woven. They're 19th century fabrics, and she's made it in the style of you know, one of these Boro garments. Obviously, this is how these patchwork garments looked before they started to get holes and before they got the patches.
Yeah.
But I took this as the inspiration for the cushion, and then I sort of took it a couple of stages further. So the actual cushion has got a few little sort of extra squares sewn on here and there, in the places where it would probably get a little bit worn. But that was my my inspiration for the cushion.
How long did it take you to write the book?
Probably not as long as you'd imagine. Most of it was done
Really?
during lockdown.
Really?
Yeah. So it was unusual because I've never created a book where we couldn't do things like step-by-step photography. So what we did instead was we took photos at home and we sent them in, and then we had a wonderful illustrator who basically drew all of the diagrams, all the construction diagrams. Some of them were done from diagrams which I'd drawn on the computer, but then others were literally done from photos of my hand doing something, and they came back as illustrations. And it does give the book a really, really lovely look. I love the way they styled it. We had this idea, we wanted to, you know, make the Boro look a little bit more modern. Actually, you've just flicked past a rather interesting project, and I have to apologise. I left this hanging up in my workroom because I started using it and I forgot to bring it. It's a bag that's made out of the hip section of a pair of jeans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, my husband donated a pair of his for it, and they had a big rip on the knee as well. So I made this sort of Boro section to go in the bottom of it, in the bottom of the bag, and it takes you through, you know, how to cut the jeans, how to make the section of fabric. So, you know, a picture like at the bottom of this page here where it's showing all the piecing going on in progress, that has been drawn by the illustrator from a photograph that I sent in. So I took all these step photos and we sent them in, and they redrew the whole thing. So it's actually a really, really fun bag. There's another really cracking picture of it there. So when you fold the flap on the bag back, I called it a messenger bag because that's more or less what it is, you see the top of the jeans.
Yeah.
And if you actually want to make it a little bit bigger, you can undo the button and undo the fly as well to get more things in. And then from the bottom of one of the legs, we made this gadget slipcase. And I have to say we at this point because I was really getting a bit short of time to finish some of the big projects. The yogi was taking me a lot longer than I thought it would, the one that's behind me. And my husband, he's quite into Boro as well, and I said, would you mind if I pin the pieces on, will you do the stitching for me? So he actually did all the stitching on that.
Oh.
And I just did the putting together on the gadget slipcase. So that's one of his little bits. And I have nabbed a pair of his jeans and brought them along just to show what he does. He was going to wear these today, and they said, oh no, I've got a few more rips and I've got to repair them a bit more. But basically that is the knee, one of the knees of his jeans that have got the Boro. Yeah, you can see it's ripped again and ripped again. I think these are really on the way out. And what he's done with this, he's taken a piece of fabric, put it behind the hole, stitched through, and he's stitched in different directions. It's his idea, because the jeans have got a bit of stretch to them, so he's stitched in a slight curve, so they've still retained their stretchiness. But we do cover in the book a little bit about, you know, how to repair your jeans with Boro, if you want to do that, give them, you know, that Boro look. Is this the pair that he did the bum? Oh, it is the pair that he did the bum. Yes, there you go. Yes, they split on the bum, so he did a bit on the bum as well. And he just sits and potters about with those. So, yeah, that was a pair of jeans that didn't get chopped up and turned into a project in the book.
I think there's so many people at the moment are very conscious of you know, the environment and upcycling, repurposing, recycling, whatever you're going to call it.
Yes.
And it's a great way to repurpose your own clothes, and if you can get out to charity shops.
It is actually. And I have to confess, I've got quite a few things sitting in the wardrobe where, well, I've got a few linen shirts from several years ago. And yeah, some of the colours are not really what would appeal to me necessarily for Boro. I mean, I've got one that's like a hot pink, but I thought, you know, if I over dye that with an indigo jeans dye, you can get a dye from Dylon and just stick it in the washing machine, the thing comes out more or less blue. I thought, yeah, then it will work. It will definitely work for that. And that's something I've done quite a bit. Now, this old piece here, this is a section. I'll hold it up like that, so woo, which way? That way. There you go. You can sort of see it there. It's two pieces out of an old futon cover, you know, the Japanese mattresses that go on the floor. And it's always made me think that this is, by the way, the wrong side. This is the side that would have been seen on the outside. And again, the patching is a lot less obvious on this.
Yeah.
But the other side, it's always made me think of some sort of landscape. So I took the idea, and last year I started doing some workshops at some of the shows where we did these little landscapes. My first idea was to do something really, really abstract like that. And I thought, you know, that is going to be so difficult to explain to people which piece is which. So instead, I reinterpreted it as this little picture. Oh, I will put it down there like that, and then maybe we can see it from overhead. Can we? Can we see it from overhead? Oh, lovely. There we go. So I took the basic idea of patching with strips, and I made a little scene out of it, a little Mount Fuji scene. Well, I've called it Mount Fuji. It looks a bit like that. Very, very abstract, really. But you can make it into any kind of landscape from wherever you are. And for the book, I also did a little tiddly-widdly greetings card version of it. I think the image in that, well, the aperture is only 2 inches across. Oh. And I decided on this one, I would use a button for the moon. You do sometimes find buttons on old Japanese work clothes, actually, because sometimes they're like sort of little Victorian shirt buttons that we used to fasten things. And on the bigger version, I must admit, this isn't really Boro, it's more like Cantha. I just stitched a little spiral. Oh, hang on, I'll move it over there. You can see the spiral. It was behind the graphic on the screen a minute ago. And I just stitched round and round in a spiral, and that created my moon. I have actually brought one of those as a little work in progress that I was going to sort of give you a quick demo of.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah? Okay, brilliant. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll stand that one there, and I'll stand up the wee card as well. And this is the bit where I'm probably going to create utter chaos. I've realised now we haven't, I'll mention those at the end of the hour. But, you know, you were saying about fabrics. This is exceptionally glamorous. Sorry about the rustly noise, folks, but this is basically a bag of junk from my workroom. And I'll just tuck that under there so it doesn't make such a noise, hopefully. And these are bits and pieces that I used in the book. And there is all sorts of stuff in here. Tell you what, I'll hold them up on top. See, that was the pocket off an old pair of linen trousers. Well, the ones that I used for that table runner, which I will show you at the end of the hour. And I roughly dyed that with some Dylon dye in the washing machine. It's not actually indigo dye. Right. I have got things that I over-dyed in indigo, but it isn't that. So that is one piece. Now I'm looking to see what else I've got in here. I thought I'd put an old shirt on there, but oh, there's the old shirt. I haven't cut anything off this yet. See, this is going to be going into the Boro bag pretty pronto. And as you can probably see, it is not a Japanese garment at all. It's one of my husband's old work shirts. But it looks so fabulously Boro.
Has your husband got any clothes left?
Of course, he's got tons. He's got a ridiculous amount of clothes. Honestly, I always joke it's like sort of life-size Barbie's Ken or something. You know, he's got loads of outfits. But he does like a stripy shirt, and I was keeping my eye on this one. I know it's going to be a case of he'll say, oh, I want to use that for patching my jeans. Like, oh, but I want it for something else. Yeah, absolutely great. So you can take something like that to bits, and if you've really got the patience of a saint, if you take it to bits using an unpicker, you see, you get interesting places, like here where you've had the original stitching, and sometimes it gives a nice sort of wear or a bit of fold or something like that. Just makes it more interesting. But, you know, those bits are not Japanese pieces of fabric. Now, there are pieces in here which are old Japanese fabrics. That's one. That one's an old Japanese fabric. That's an old Japanese fabric. That's an old Japanese fabric. Oh, this one here, however, that's a bit of Moda stripe. That's a bit of modern Japanese fabric. Somewhere amongst this huge mass of bits, trying to find them all now. Ooh, where's it gone? Where's it gone? Very deliberately put it in yesterday. Well, I found that piece. I found a piece of patchwork fabric. Oh, there we go. It was those two bits. Right. Put those two side by side. Move it over a little bit so you can see a bit better. Old Japanese fabric, patchwork fabric.
Really?
Yeah. So you can mix things up. This is a bit of fabric I bought at a quilt show. It's of somebody's hand-dyed stand. It's like a bit gauzy. You know, I've used that. That's a bit of, well, it's a bit of Olympus fabric. I might have some bits in here which are actually the scraps cut from when I've stitched the Sashiko panels that we have. So there's all sorts. There's just all sorts of stuff in here. And you know, you can start out with a great heap of bits like that, and then start turning it something. I'm going to push that down there because we'll probably show this next bit on the overhead, I would think. So the picture that I've done started out as a bit of fabric like that. I think it's like, this is actually the same fabric. It's an Indian cotton fabric that I had. But again, it looks like old Japanese fabric. It doesn't look, you know, different at all, really, to some of the old stuff. It's very, very similar. So that should have actually been a square, but it isn't. And the frame that I used, it's this, there we go, cheapie from IKEA. It costs about £3.50 or £4 or something. And it's a box frame. Has actually got a piece of acrylic in it. Right. But for mine, I made it up. I left that out. So, you know, it's a box frame, so it's a bit sort of three-dimensional. And I used that. And I just made sure that my piece of fabric that I started off with was a bit bigger than the backing board. Okay. And as long as it's bigger, that is absolutely okay. So then I want to make something to be my Mount Fuji. Let's find some fabric that could be Mount Fuji. That would do. That's actually modern fabric. That would just be great because it's a nice contrast. You know, you can really see the difference between the sky. You want Mount Fuji to show up pretty good. I'm going to have to put the specs on now to be able to do this. So.
Do you get many children in your workshops?
Occasionally it shows, yeah. I mean, obviously all the shows are off at the moment. Yeah.
Are you not Zooming?
I'm not Zooming yet. We've got a bit of a sort of communications problem with the house, really, in that we live in a very old house. And the Wi-Fi doesn't extend into my workroom yet. Oh. We're trying to get that sorted out a little bit. But yeah, then I will actually start doing some Zoom things. So I've just got a little rectangle of fabric and I'm just going to fold it. I tell you what, can we have the overhead on? Oh, super duper. Just folded it like that. The criticism that my husband gave me in my first picture, he said, you made your Mount Fuji too pointy. I said, look, it's not really meant to be all that realistic, you know.
Not geographically correct.
No. It's the view of Mount Fuji from Lake Ashi, actually. And so I said, all right, on the next one, then I'll give it a bit more slope. The thing is, you could make this look like any old mountain, couldn't you? It doesn't have to be Mount Fuji. It's just my little joke, that really. It's basically, it's a mountain amongst other mountains, and there's a lake. It could be somewhere in the Lake District. But I've made this little piece, and I'm just squishing it down really good with a bit of the old finger pressing. I'm a devil for not putting the iron on until the absolute last possible moment. Because my workroom at the moment, it's in an attic room, it's a dormer room, so it's got a sloping ceiling. the ceiling is very, very low, and the minute I put the iron on, the room just goes into meltdown. So I tend to avoid pressing things until the last possible moment. But I put this down, so that's my Mount Fuji. And then I would get some pins. I did have a pin cushion on here if I left it on the trolley. Possibly left it on the trolley. Oh, there it is at the top. Yeah. So I just pop some pins in. Like that. I'll stick one in there. Whoops.
I suppose there's no right or wrong, is there?
No, it's almost the complete antithesis of doing Sashiko, which is super precise in that this basically isn't. And then I've got my needle, I've got one parked in there, and I think I've got a bundle of different threads lurking around on the top of here. Oh yeah, as you can see, it's
when you say bundle,
your bundle bits, some bits of Sashiko threads up here. I'm just going to get a dark blue thread because I don't. Actually, no, I won't use dark blue. I'll use that mid blue. You'll be able to see it a bit better then, won't you? And the way that I sewed this piece down, I just did like a little applique stitch all the way around it. I'm keeping an eye on time, by the way. I'll be very good and we won't run over this hour.
I think we might have that thread. Is it the blue variegated one?
Oh, it's very similar to that one.
Isn't
This
it?
is the one that goes right through to white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but very, very,
It's
very
got a bit of
similar.
green in it.
Yeah, that one's got a touch of green in. That would actually be really, really nice for the water at the bottom on this one.
Yeah.
I've just tied a wee knot in the end, and then I'm just going to come up through the edge. We might need the overhead for this again. I mean, normally if I'm doing, you know, proper applique, I tack it on and I'm really, really good and everything, but I don't bother for this. I just stitch it down. So I'm just taking a little stitch down through the edge. Don't know how well it can see that. I can hold up there a little bit more. And coming up like that. I'm just going through that fold at the edge.
Right.
I tend to put my thumb on it when I'm running the thread through. It stops it knotting up or do anything funny. So I'll do that again. And if I keep the stitches quite small, even with a thick thread, quite remarkably, you can't really see them that much. This is why I said if I did it with the dark, you honestly wouldn't see it at all. But it's basically just an applique stitch that I'm doing. And I'm going to do that all the way up the one slope of the mountain and all the way down the other side.
Okay.
And then when I've got that in place, I will then start putting some strips of fabric, just raw edge strips, to represent the other mountains. I'll just do a tiny bit more of that, and then I'll show you here's one I started earlier. Here's one I made earlier. It's that Blue Peter moment, isn't it?
Could you just move it to your right a little
Oh,
bit?
yes, sorry. There you go.
That's it,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm just taking a little stitch and coming down again.
Do you ever start with a project and it ends up being completely different to what you anticipated it
No,
to
all
be?
the time, yeah.
Do you?
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Yeah, I suppose, well, these things were pretty well planned out, and I did little sketches of them all first to give us a rough idea what they were going to look like. Because we had a planning meeting down at my publisher's office, which is down in Exeter. As it's David and Charles who've done this book, and they were the publishers who were behind the Ultimate Sashiko Source Book and the Ultimate Kogan Collection. So we've done a similar sort of idea, but because really there's not a lot of different stitches and a lot of different techniques that are used in Boro, we've made this more of a project-led book. Oh, that's a lovely zoom that I've got there on the preview. Could we? Oh, there we go. That's what my edge is now looking like. I'll turn it around that way. Then, yeah, that's what I'm actually looking at when I'm stitching it.
Okay.
So you can see the edge really, really well. I'll stick the needle in there. Yeah, so we had this planning meeting, and I took down sketches of all the different things that we'd done that I'd want to make for it, and a few samples of things that were already done, and then, yeah, the whole thing was planned out then. At the time, of course, I didn't realise that when I came to be working on the book, I would be completely in lockdown, and I wouldn't be able to go and do any step-by-step photography. And it was quite strange, actually. The experience of writing a book when you're pretty much on your own every day is very, very odd. Because also, I had been teaching a Sashiko course at Stockton-on-Tees, and some of my students on that were actually possibly going to help me with stitching things to the book. And of course, so I ended up with a massive amount of hand stitching. Nobody had helped me with it. And it became a bit of a race against time, but we got it all done. And anyway, yes, so that was starting off with my little Mount Fuji, and then this is like your next stage. Well, there's a few stages on actually here. What I've done, I've just got strips of fabric. Again, nothing mega special, you know, stuff like little piece like that. That one's actually been, I tore the edge of that one, which gives it an interesting feature. And what I've done is I've put my first little bit, my stripy bit, I put down there, pinned it in place. Then I put a strip going this way, a strip going this way, a strip going this way. And I've looked at the fabrics and I thought, well, oh, a stripy one, that could look a little bit like a forest if I stitched it up and down, because I'm trying to make a picture. Okay, it's Boro, techniques that are used in Boro, but I wanted to make a little pictorial thing with it. So I chose different fabrics, you know, for different parts of the picture for that reason. And before I got to the stage that I'm at now, which I'll take that piece off there. I can sort of go back a stage or two with it, can't I? There we go, take that piece off. So I got these pieces and I pinned them on, and you don't need lots and lots and lots of pins. I do try when I'm doing this style, when I'm basically patching onto a background fabric, like with the bag that I showed you, I do try not to have too many pins in play. It's very, very easy to end up with a pin underneath a layer and forget that it's there until you've stitched it on. Then, of course, you've got to cut the fabric to get it out. So I do try not to have that many pins. I don't know where they all are at any one time. But I've laid all these pieces on, and then you might just be able to make it out. There's a few lines of dark stitching coming down here, just dark blue running stitch. We might even have a dark blue thread there, I'm not sure at the moment. But it's just, I just chose a thread that wouldn't show up too much, and that is almost like a tacking, and it's just keeping all the pieces together until I sew them. And then I've sewn a little line along the top of each. That's meant to look like snow. I know it doesn't really, but it's meant to look a little bit like snow. And then on this section here, I'm going up and down with this brown and white shaded thread. I thought that'll look a bit like trees. And the piece here, I'm going to go up and down using a cream thread. And then right at the front, to look almost like rushes or something growing next to the lake. And then I thought, right, the next bit, I'll put a piece on the bottom. Now, this is actually the selvage piece off another fabric that I had. And I thought, well, it looks good. Again, it looks almost like grasses or something interesting going on there.
Yeah.
So, you know, use your selvagey bits. You know, you can use all kinds of little bits of, well, junkery. That's why I went to my work and I just grabbed that bag full of stuff, because that is the kind of thing I would start with if I was going to do, you know, a Boro project. So you could have a piece like that. I also had this bit knocking about, which is a piece of, it's actually a piece of kimono fabric. This one is a piece of summer kimono fabric. And to me, it looked like water.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a really great one for the lake. For the top of the lake, if I wasn't going to use a fluffy sort of selvagey bit like that, I would actually turn that over, because I don't want the water to look too sort of fringy across. I want it to look like water, you know?
Yeah.
And this has got these little wiggly lines going across it, woven into it, make it look like water. So on the one that I framed, I did actually fold the edge of the top of the water over. And then I've stitched back and forth on the water, I've stitched back and forth in the sky. The circle that I did where I've done the moon, I just took the end of a reel of cotton, drew round it, and started by stitching on the outside and coming onto the inside, just spiralling in, spiralling in, spiralling in. And then I looked at it and thought, it doesn't look dense enough. So I did a second spiral doing the same thing and stitched in all the gaps to just make it look a bit more white. But that was basically how I did that little landscape piece. And to put it in the frame, it is really the height of not sophistication. I got some double-sided sticky tape and took the backing board out of the frame, stuck it all the way around the frame, stuck the picture on it, pulled it about a bit so things were straight, you know, because I didn't want the edge, the top of the lake to be going off on a bit of a slope. That had to be, you know, nice and horizontal. And then just shoved it into the frame, and I haven't actually trimmed this one off at all on the back, just to show that you kind of don't need to really. I mean, obviously, if you were going to do this and give it as a gift or something, you'd probably trim that back to the edge of the backing board. But the piece of sticky tape going all the way around, the double-sided sticky, that's what's holding it in place. Okay. If you've got some of that sticky mounting card, you know, you use for cross-stitch, you could use that. And yes, I have some. Could I find it while I was doing the book? No. So I don't know quite where it had ended up. So that's another bit. And I keep referring to this infamous table runner. So I've really got to show you that in the first hour, haven't I? I'm going to put those bits there. Hope they stay on the trolley. The table runner. This is actually one of my favourite pieces in the book, and I love the way that they styled the picture. Now, I have to say, if you had a genuine piece of old Boro, you probably wouldn't really want to put it anywhere near food because it's probably not that clean. But in the case of this, all the fabrics were washed before I actually made it. And it is constructed out of the legs of a pair of trousers. Oh. Which were sewn together to make like a backing fabric. And this plays with the idea that the old Boro has a right way, it has a front and it has a back. So in a way, this kind of represents the back in that it's got lots of patches all over it. And there's bits cut out of the old jeans. There's a bit there, well, it wasn't jeans, it was like linen trousers, but there's a piece there that was like the waistband section. And I've used some slightly more contemporary stitches because people today who are doing Boro-inspired pieces are often using embroidery stitches like chain stitch or blanket stitch, which you don't see on the old pieces, but they look nice. They do look very, very lovely. So I've put some little spirals on here that I did in chain stitch. And now the side that you're gradually seeing now, this is what would be, if I was really making it for Boro, this would be like the right side.
Oh, right.
As opposed to the back.
Yeah.
And that it's the piece where, you know, you've got most solid pieces of fabric, you've just got little patches in here and there. So I thought, yeah, make the whole thing completely reversible. And it really is one of my favourite projects in the book. And I'll show you the old piece that inspired it, which is, I'll show you a little bit of it. This is the outside of it. There we go. Should we show that flat? Yeah, smashing. It's the bottom part of an old kimono which has lost its collar and lost its sleeves and has been very crudely patched together at some point. So you can see the holes on this are a bit more irregular than the ones I put on my table runner, but this was the general idea behind it. And then when you look at it on the other side, shall I hold it up? Would that be better maybe?
Yeah, that's
I will hold it up slowly. There we go.
So that's the wrong side.
This is the wrong side. But it's just a riot of different patches. Yeah. And so this was the inspiration for the other side of my table runner. You can have a lot of fun with this, a lot of fun.
Does your collection kind of spill out of the workshop through the rest of the house?
Of course it does, yeah, you can't move the stuff, yeah. This is one of the problems actually when we came to put it all together for the show. Some things were in a room downstairs, some things in a room upstairs. And obviously there were some bits where I thought I had them inside of a box, and I didn't. But, you know, as I said, if I showed you absolutely every single thing that was in the book at the moment, you'll be here for quite a long time. When I come back for the second hour, we're going to show you the jacket that is, well, if you just disappear for a moment off the screen, everybody will be able to see it. We've got it on a dress stand just to my, no, we can't quite see it, can we? Oh, there we go. There it is. Yes, lovely. The hand-turned jacket that appears on the book cover. I'm going to show you that in the second hour. And
we've got a very expensive model.
Oh, yeah, it's a really, really expensive model.
Doesn't get out of bed for less than a fiver.
But we've also got the old jacket that was based on, because I have a really lovely old Boro jacket. It's now quite fragile. It would have been quite large on the person who originally wore it as well. It would have probably come down to sort of knee level or whatever. But we scaled it up a little bit to make the hand ten that we've got over there. So that is quite a decent length to wear as a dressing gown. Yeah. And well, I haven't actually bought a sash for it for this, but you could also wear it as a loose jacket. And we've made the panels a little bit wider as well, because the original fabrics in Japan, you know, they're only about 14 and a half inches wide, which means that if you make a garment out of those for a modern Western person who's nearly 6 foot tall, the sleeves will be ridiculous. Well, they'll only be to about the elbow. They won't be like the normal length. So on the jacket, I made the body panel 16 inches wide, and the sleeves have actually got a little bit extra width on them as well. There's a little extra piece around the cuff. So when my husband puts it on, it's a good fit for him.
Yeah.
Whereas if I just copied the antique jacket, it would have been way too small. But anyway, you will see that when I come back in an hour.
That's 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Susan. This has been so informative, and we have some lovely comments on Facebook as well.
Oh, great.
But remember, we are launching Susan's
Yes.
book today with 10% discount, which is unheard of. The price will go up from this one. We can't keep that 10% down. All of the books that we have for you are signed by Susan, and this isn't supposed to be launching until tomorrow, so you're a little bit ahead of the game. Yeah. So we've got we have linens. We've got plenty of fabrics as well if you need any, and we have the Sashiko threads. Have a look on the website on sewingstreet.com. But do check out of your baskets now. I know a lot of you have been watching for the whole hour because it's been such an interesting and fascinating hour. But it's time to check out your baskets if you want to get hold of the signed copy. So that's almost like a limited edition of the book. If you want to get hold of that, then you need to do that right now. We've got Patchwork coming up in the next hour with Wendy Orlando, and Susan's going to be back again at 11 o'clock. So do stay with us. You can go and have another cup of coffee if you like. Go and put the kettle on. We'll see you again in a couple of minutes.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page. Have you heard about Yarn Lane, a TV show dedicated to knitting, crochet and all things yarn, bringing you demonstrations from our expert guests as well as the latest tools. Watch us on Freeview Channel 74, Sky Channel 670 or on our YouTube channel. And find out what's coming up on the show by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our email newsletter or visit the programme guide on our website at www.yarnlane.com.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street, and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So, number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual, always keep it to hand because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick unpick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. If you want more hints and tips, then why not go to Sewing Street on Channel 74 on Freeview, on Sky 670, and of course we have a YouTube channel where you can catch up on previous demonstrations. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I'm Wendy Orlando and I'm a craft blogger. You can find me over at thecraftyco.com, and if you do head on over and have a peep, you will see that I'm a tutorial blogger. I do all kinds of crafts, but my passions are crochet, knitting and sewing, which I've done for over 45 years. In that time I've made lots of mistakes, but I have learnt lots of tricks and top tips that I can't wait to share. What I'd like to bring to the Sewing Street table is to show that you don't need to have gone to university or have a degree in design to be able to sew. You just need passion, a bit of courage to take the first steps, and a whole lot of patience. Oh, and an unpicker. You will need an unpicker. I do hope that you will follow me as I take my Sewing Street journey, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Hi, I'm Sam from Adventures in Crafting. I'm a craft and crochet teacher based in Tring in Hertfordshire. Since lockdown, I've moved all of my classes onto Zoom, so I now have customers from all over the country. I teach lots of crafts, but crochet is my specialism. I became passionate about crochet when I was pregnant with my 4th child and in desperate need of some me time. Crochet became my sanctuary and I've crocheted every day since then. I'm a qualified teacher and 8 years ago I began teaching crochet. I love sharing my passion with other people. I design patterns, sell kits and teach lots of classes. My classes range from beginners to next steps, specific makes and clubs. I also like to design crochet alongs. My most recent one was my autumn granny square crochet along, which resulted in me designing this allotment jumper, which I love to wear when I'm out gardening and looking after my chickens. My crochet tip for you is to enjoy it. Crochet should be about taking part in a hobby that brings you pleasure. My claim to fame is that I met Kirsty Allsop at the Handmade Fair and I gave her one of my crochet sunflower brooches. I'm so excited to be taking part in Yarn Lane and I hope you'll enjoy my demonstrations.
If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page. Have you heard about Yarn Lane, a TV show dedicated to knitting, crochet and all things yarn, bringing you demonstrations from our expert guests as well as the latest tools. Watch us on Freeview Channel 74, Sky Channel 670 or on our YouTube channel. And find out what's coming up on the show by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our email newsletter or visit the programme guide on our website at www.yarnlane.com.
Hi, I'm Debbie Shaw from Sewing Street and these are my 5 top tips for successful sewing. So number 1, always use a good quality thread. A good quality thread will keep your seams stronger and also help to prevent lint building up inside your sewing machine. Tip number 2, if your project isn't going quite according to plan, put it down, walk away from it, come back again the next day and you'll probably find that things don't seem half as bad as they did. My tip number 3, never throw away your sewing machine manual, always keep it to hand because you're going to find hints and tips, techniques and troubleshooting in that manual. You'll miss it if you lose it. My tip number 4 is to read your pattern instructions before you even cut out your fabric. Different manufacturers of patterns will give you different instructions, different ways of constructing your garments and different seam allowances. So to have a successful garment, you need to follow the instructions precisely. And then tip number 5 is don't give up. Every professional sewer sewed their first seam. Every professional quilter quilted their first quilt. Every professional quilter sewed their first line of wonky stitches and had to get out the quick and pick. That's no different to you. So I hope you find these useful. If you want more hints and tips, then why not go to Sewing Street on Channel 74 on Freeview, on Sky 670, and of course we have a YouTube channel where you can catch up on previous demonstrations. We'll see you soon. Hi there, welcome back again. Now in this show we're going to be talking about the quilt behind me here, which Wendy's made. It's all half square triangles, so it's quite simple, but isn't it pretty? Lovely colours, and it's very, very fresh and very popular fabric, have to say. What we've done is put together a whole bundle of fabric for you to make the quilt, and we've got the instructions for you as well. It's called Going Places, this one. So the finished size is about 40 inches by 48 inches, so it's decent size as well. And these are the fabrics that we've put together. Look at those. They're so fresh, they're so pretty and so really detailed as well. Isn't that gorgeous? So that's little hexagons and then the flowers. I love the colours. I just think they're so pretty, aren't they? Shall I open one up? Just to show you. So we've got 0.5 meters of fabrics here. Look at that. Oh, well, I wish we were looking at that when we looked out of the window. Well, you can't see anything when I looked out the window this morning. It's too foggy. There's your hexagon fabric. And then we've got a contrast of the navy. That's a lovely, I wouldn't say that was navy, I would say, well, maybe a French navy. with the larger flowers. You're getting all of these, and then you have a panel. I like a panel. You just get lots on it, so you've got 4 different prints on one panel there. So each one of those will be a fat ace, will it not? And then we have bees. So always popular, bee fabric. And then, shan't open that one out because it's just ivory. So all of that for £54.99. And of course, you've got your pattern included there as well. And easy to follow step-by-step instructions using images of the actual fabric that you're going to be making this out of as well. So it's going to be easy for you to follow too. So £54.99. Go place your order, and I bet you can't wait to get started. Oh, I've got a bit of folding to do there now, haven't I? I'll do that in a bit. If you wanted any waddings or anything like that, have a look on the website. We've got all of those. We've got marking tools, we've got your quilter's gloves and your bent pins and all that kind of thing. But have a look on the website because it's 10 past and we're running out of time already. We haven't even started yet. Morning, Ms. Orlando.
Oh, good morning, Debbie. How are you?
Oh,
no, you first.
I'm really good. Are you really good?
I'm really good.
Good.
Very excited to be working back with you again.
Yes,
We've got our bracket back to our hinge, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while. It has. Super
In fact,
excited.
We haven't been together here, have we?
No.
See, I managed to avoid it for weeks. She's been a diva this morning, honestly. I want this sewing machine and I want my Stripology, she says. And
I didn't put it quite like that, Debbie.
no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
But I love this quilt, and it's not very often that you get the quilt that is the same fabric as the pattern you're using, because that's brilliant, because all I need to do is just look at the picture, because normally you have to substitute and have to mark where it is, but I just followed it. And I don't know if you've picked up on this, Debbie, that one that you've got in front of that you're going to have to fold up really nicely. And if you look behind you, it's only you only
on the
need
corners.
2 5-inch squares of fabric. How amazing is that? Because that means you've got loads left to do what you want with.
Well, that means if you use that much, you've got all of that left over.
Exactly.
We're very generous.
I
aren't
couldn't
we?
quite believe it. I thought, no, I must have read the pattern wrong. Surely you need more than that.
We can only cut in half metres. That's what the problem is.
Well,
Well, it's a problem
that
for
is
us,
a
not a
huge
problem for you.
bonus, huge bonus. And you do get some of everything. The only thing that you don't get, you won't have enough to put a backing on with the cream, because obviously it's being sold as a topper.
Right.
But we've all got backing fabrics that we can use. And you may not want to. You may not want to actually make a quilt with it. You might want to make loads of cushions.
Yeah.
And as you are quite right, this is made using half square triangles, which
Don't you love them?
I didn't. I don't know if you were watching last time until I got the Stripology, because I like to sew, I don't like to cut. But oh my goodness, the Stripology just makes it so easy.
Really?
Yes, so shall we get started?
Go on then.
Brilliant. So I'm going to, hope you don't mind today, because it literally is just half square triangles and it's rather boring watching me watch all of that, do all of that. So I'm going to make like something you can probably put under your machine just to stop it vibrating and making a noise. So I will quilt it and bind it as well. And you will have enough to do that. But again, you may not have enough of the backing fabric.
Right.
So, first thing we're going to do, and I'm hoping these are actually in stock, because I know I was a bit of a diva and I said, I want one today to cut, because you can do...
Diva.
No.
Yeah, we do have them details on your screen at the moment.
I'm so not a diva. So I'm just going to show you that you can literally just use this to cut all these out. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut every single one of these half square triangles starts life as a 5-inch triangle. So that's the first thing I'm going to do.
Before you cut, can you just push it forward a little bit?
Oh, is that Elliot telling me off again?
Yeah.
Well, that's my fault for not watching what I'm doing on the screen. I got a bit excited because I'm back with you, Debbie. I've got all of a dither. So the first thing we're going to do, and he's going to keep shouting head because it does keep coming in. I do apologise. It's because I'm too short to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to cut 5-inch triangles. And this is only the baby one. This is the tiny one, but it's absolutely perfect for this project because it cuts up to 6.5 inch. all I'm going to do for the moment, I don't want to waste too much material, so I've folded it a couple of times, and if you do that, make sure that you press it first because you don't want any creases in your fabric. And then I'm just going to line up the bottom. So I've got the solid black line there, and I'm lining it up, and then I'm going to cut at the 0 and the 5. Now that is going to give me a 5-inch wide piece of material. And then all I'm going to do, and a top tip here, is if you start cutting from the open edge rather than the fold, I'll show you what we do. So I'm going to cut 5 inches again. So I'm just going to make sure that I line the bottom up, and I make sure that I've got both pieces of fabric on that 0 mark or a little bit beyond. I'm going to cut it, and then 5. Now, because I started at the open end, I've got all this fabric left. Whereas if I'd started on the fold, I'd now would have got 2 pieces that I can't really do. Well, I would be able to cut 5-inch squares. So that's it. That's all you need to do. Now I'm actually going to show you how to put them together, and you will see by the pattern that actually the majority of these have got the cream with them. It's just that centre section that have got 2 fabrics together. And I love the fact that if you turn the triangles round, you get those arrows. Yeah. So, but they're exactly the same. There's nothing fancy. It's exactly the same. It's just the way you're positioning the half square triangles. So they're all the same. And this is why I wanted to get onto something a little bit more exciting, because you don't really just want me to cut and make these. I am using 2 pattern fabrics purely because it's rather difficult to see the wrong side of the plain fabric. Yes. Because the wrong looks the right and the right looks the wrong. So I just wanted to show you. And all you do is you'll turn, I'm going to turn the lighter one over just so you can probably see better. And I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner. Now you do need to take into consideration the thickness of your nib. And if you've got a really fat one, Debbie, then you need to come away from the corner a little bit, okay? Right. Mine's fairly fat, so I'm going to just pull it back a little bit, and then I'm going to draw from corner to corner. So I've got my first mark. I have in one of the previous shows, and I can't remember what, shown you how to do it if you've got directional fabric. But to be perfectly honest, it doesn't matter with these. Most of them, I don't think any of them are directional actually, looking at it.
Are they?
No. So you don't need to worry about which way you sew on this one. But all you would do is just divide your patterns in half, and then have the arrow. You would do it one way that way, and then you draw it that way. And all I'm doing here is this pattern. I do apologise, the dog's been on it, it's been on the floor, but that's a good sign. That's a good sign for me, because it means it's well used. It's just showing you what the finished quilt looks like, the quilt topper, and you don't need to use all of it. You can just, as I say, make cushions. You could just have a square, and you'll see in a moment I've used this part to make the thing to go under my machine. And then it tells you what you need to cut out of each. Just be a little bit aware of this side. It says make 10 fabric A and J. It doesn't mean put 10 A and J's together and make 10, because you're going to cut them in half, so that gives you 20. Yeah. So just be a little bit mindful of that. So you would need 5 of each, cut in half to make 10. You'd need 8 of each, cut in half to make 16 for that one. Okay. And it's very self-explanatory, because J, as you can see, J is the only number that's repeated, so that has to be the cream. And then A, and that's the brilliant thing about this, it is the right material for the job, which is brilliant. Yeah. And that's all I did. I just cut all out what I needed to, and you cut the binding out of fabric A, which is this one. So I've already pre-done the binding ready for when we're going to make the thing to go under our machine. So now all you do is you put right sides together. And this blue line now, Debbie, is my raw edge of my fabric. You have to use a little bit of your imagination, but we're going to pretend that's the raw edge. So we're going to sew 1/4 inch down that side and 1/4 inch back up that side. I would actually use a scant 1/4 inch with this one, because you're turning a 5-inch square, 2 5-inch squares into a 4.5-inch square. There's not a lot of leeway. So I would go that scant, and with a scant you get your 1/4 inch and then you move your needle to the right a little bit more. So I don't know if people, there are some people out there that don't realise that when you're doing a straight stitch that your width doesn't come into play because you're going straight. So then that moves your needle to the left and to the right. So I'm going to move my needle to my scant quarter. Now I've had a little play out there and I know that 6 is my scant. And I'm going to keep my stitch length at 2.4, and then all I'm going to do is sew down one side of the line. Get to the end, and then I'm going to come back down the other side. Now I'm lining the right side of my foot up with the edge of that blue line. Brilliant to chain piece here. I'm not going to, because I'm only going to show you how to do the one, but you can just keep going and going and going and going. Yeah. But you will need to go down all one side and then turn around and go all the way up. And then all I'm going to do, I scared John last time I did this, so I'm going to use my ruler. I just free-handed it last time. But if you're not very confident with the cutter, I'm just going to cut those two in half. And I can see that my blade probably needs changing, so I've now cut them in half, and what I have created is my 2 half square triangles. You've gone very quiet. You can't get a word in edgeways this morning, can you?
I'll just let you get on with it.
Has anyone bought you a cup of tea? You can sit and have a rest. You're probably up very early this morning.
3 o'clock.
Okay. And then all we're going to do here is we're going to set those stitches by just placing the iron down on them to set the stitches, and then we're going to iron onto the dark side. So you have the dark side of the fabric facing up, and all that means that one's dark and one's light. So you have it facing up with the line of stitching at the top, and then you just fold it back. Find that point where you can just feel a little bit of resistance and you want to push it. Now what I would do, and I'm going to actually, probably should have done that before I ironed them.
What?
A bit of best press. I do like a bit of best press, so I probably should have done that before I ironed them. But you know what, just in case anyone else forgot to do that, they can...
Best press is our early bird, so you've got a £3 saving on that.
I couldn't see you in my room today. They had replays on and I didn't know how to work the remote control.
I thought you were watching GMTV.
Oh, sometimes I do. I've got it everywhere. That smells gorgeous.
It's delicate, isn't it?
That's the word. Yeah. Delicate. And see, I did that on purpose to show you that one, you can see actually that's really like still soft and fluid, where that's got a slight bit of rigidity into it, and that will protect that bias in the centre.
Okay.
Right. So now's the magic part, because we're going to... Oh, I don't like that, Debbie. I'm going to have a word with management. I don't like that. Keep clanking.
She's off again. How long did it take to make this one then?
I don't know. I have no idea, because what I did the cutting the first night, so I cut all my 5-inch squares and then drew my lines on the back and left them. Right. And then the next night I sewed them all together and then cut them, and then the final I pressed them all, turned them into the little squares and then sewed them. So it is quite a considerable make, but you do, the good thing is you do get quite a lot of material left over that you'll be able to make loads more as well, so it's not just going to make the topper. Now these are brilliant, and I don't know how I've ever lived without mitts. Have you got one of these, Debbie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm going to convert you, I know. So what we're now going to do, we're going to turn this 2 5s into 1 4.5, and we're going to, it's got 45-degree dotted lines, and this is 45 because it's down the centre of that 90-degree angle. It's a little bit of maths there. You didn't know you'd be learning maths this morning, did you? And then all we want to do is we want to line it up with one of these dotted lines. I'd see which one's the best, and that one works best for me. And the straighter that you can get it on that line at this point, the more accurate your final square is going to be. And what I'm looking for is to have a little bit over there and a little bit over here. And that's what I was saying about that scant 1/4 inch. If I didn't do the scant, this would be quite tight.
Yeah.
And then all I'm going to do is cut it at the 0 and the 4.5 So now we've got a perfect 4.5 half width square. So now we just turn it around. Now this time we need to work on, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, the white dotted line there. And then we're going to lay that down on here in the centre, and we want it to, again, to, if we can, have a little bit, and you see it's very tight here, but we are going to manage it. And then I'm going to cut at the 0 and the 4.5. There we go. And what you can see, and this is what you're aiming for, is that you've got the material to each corner, because that will give you much sharper intersections on your topper. I'm sorry. Oops, sorry. So that's that.
Elliot had vacuumed just before we went
I
live.
was so I thought the cleaner was in. And then I saw...
He was?
But then I saw Elliot come out of the room and it's like, whoa. He did a very good job and I've made a real mess in there. So, sorry, Elliot, you have to go now. If he gives me the hoover, I'll do it. I don't mind. So now, all you do then is just on here is make all the colourways that you need. And I know there are some people at home that maybe don't have space, but just, you know, stack them up. Try and keep them in their order because you'll find it much easier when you need to grab some. Right. I just line them up in a long line and then just pick them as I needed them. And then all you're going to do is simply follow. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah.
If you don't, I guess that you can just make them in any colourway. I preferred to do it in this because it told me exactly what I needed to do. Yeah. I'm going to be working on this little tiny bit down here just to show you how to put them together. But look, I've got like, all this fabric left over. Right. So I'm just going to find the bits that I've done already.
Something very interesting going on Facebook.
Oh no, what have we done?
Oh, you're all jumpy and jerky, and there's two of you. You've got a shadow.
Of me?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad.
Oh, now you froze. Oh, now you're moving. Very clever how you do that.
Well, we were in that era, weren't we? The robotics era. Didn't know I could do that, did you? Oh, I do apologise about that. I'm not normally like that. Well, I am, aren't I? I am. Yeah. So if you can see, sorry, Ellie, I'm making Elliot jump all over the place today. I'm going to be doing, I've already done the bottom 2 sections here. I'm just following the chart, and that's all you do with all of it. So I would do each row at a time and then join row 1 to row 2 to row 3 to row 4. But how we do the rows, and I'm just going to check what I need. What do I need above that? So I need a blue and one of these to be, and this was the hardest part I found, Debbie. I'm not very, I sew it and then think, oh no, I've done it wrong again. I'm not very good with things like that. Because what you're, this one, I'm making the arrowhead, so I know that I'm right. And then these ones are an extension down the side. So you should be able to see that you're on the right track with that. So yours is going to be on a much bigger scale. And then all you do, and I learnt this from John, that you sew them in pairs. So I'm just going to sew the first 2 pairs. So on here it would be these first 2 pairs here. Then you would sew the second. And you just sew them all in their pairs. And again, I'm going to use that scant 1/4 inch. And you've said it loads of times, the same as me though, at this point, as long as you're consistent. Yeah. Just make sure, if you are doing it to just a 1/4 inch, make sure you're doing all of them. And I'm using a 2.4 stitch length.
I do, if I'm doing something like this, I'll sew 2 together, then I'll lay everything out all over again just to make sure that you're going to get one the wrong way around.
I thought you were going to say then you go for a cup of tea. I've done that before. I've actually done it on here where I've sewn it the wrong way around. It's like, oh, that's not hard with me. But you're right, then you would lay it down and then I'm going to do the other 2. But you'll have, I think there's 10 in the row, so you'll have 5 pairs. And I'm not pinning. If you pin, that's absolutely fine. But it is a small area, so you'll probably be able to just do it freehand.
So are you having a handmade Christmas this year?
That's a silly question. I have one every year.
Do you?
Every year. I bet the family go, oh no, what are we going to get this year? Every year there is a handmade element to something of their presents. I haven't decided this year. But you see, now I've been doing, I think everyone's probably going to get a quilt. So this is my centre, and you would have pairs on either side. And what I tend to do is when I've done 2, so I sewed down that way, when I put these 2 back, I sew up the other way, just so that it's not twisted. Because I know when you sew in long strippy bits, you normally go down one side and up the other. I thought, well, maybe it occurs the same.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm so glad that I did this one, because you'll notice in here, when I put these 2 together, you've got 2 seams together.
Yes.
So what we're going to do with that one, we're just going to iron one of them the other way. Doesn't matter which one you do. We're going to iron it the other way. It is very quiet in here today, isn't it? It's a bit spooky.
Yes, because the office is empty and
I know.
everything.
I know. And I'm going to do what you said, because I don't want to get caught out. Yeah, I'm right. I'm going to put these 2 together, and now these 2 meet. So I'm going to make sure, because I've ironed one way and one the other, I can now nest them together. And when you put them together, you'll be able to feel a bit of resistance. Now, if you want to, you can again pin them. I'm just going to go for it, because it's that kind of day today, Debbie. You started me off with my diva. So I did go and have a little cry, thinking, oh my God, I can do anything.
She's so easy to wind up.
I know. I know. I've got broad shoulders. I feel like, was it the honey monster, the honey bear? That's Aria, isn't it? Come on, the honey bear.
The honey bear? I don't know the honey
You're
bear.
the big. You come on. Don't pretend you don't.
The
honey
monster
monster.
was some cereal.
Yeah, was he Sugar Puffs?
Yes.
Oh, you had to say that.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, nobody's listening.
Those puffies that are full of sugar. Do they still do them? I don't even know if they still do them.
I haven't seen. I don't know.
But he was the big honey monster with the big shoulders, wasn't he? But we were around with shoulder pad era, weren't we? I mean, our shoulders couldn't get through the door sometimes.
God, and the lapels to match.
Gosh. Will we ever go back there, do you think?
Made your waist look tiny though, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. So now all we need to do, pretend that there's 10 in the row, so we're now going to join the rows. I've done the bottom 2, and all we're going to do is we're going to place them together, but I want to make sure that each of these nestle. And what they tell you to do in the instructions is half of the seams iron one way, and then half of the seams iron the other, and then do it opposite on the next one down. So all your seams are going, they're not all going the same way in one row. If that I hope that makes sense. I know what I mean. So all I'm going to do is just check. So they're going that way, so these ones need to go the other way. I've actually remembered to put the mat down. Normally I just like iron. Oh. Shh. Who did that?
Forgot the dirty. I haven't done anything to this iron, honestly.
Oh, I've
It's
spent
the little prim one that I ruined.
I really needed to use the prim today, Debbie.
I'm never going to hear the last of it.
You're not. You're absolutely not. Are they going to give you another one? Are they going to give you another one? They are very handy though, aren't they? I must admit. But I don't know about you. Sometimes a big iron, I like to work with a big iron because you don't want to be ironing this. You just want to be pressing it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've got your stay press, so it would be okay. But you don't want to be making that stretch in that centre. And all we're going to do is fold it back. And now, because let me just take him out of the way. Because we've gone one way with one and one way with the other, we can just nestle them. Now I'm going to do something I don't normally do, Debbie. I'm going to pin, just because I can today. Did you have a nice quiet last hour?
It was very quiet, actually.
It's like, oh, Wendy's in the building. I know Neil's been working very quietly at his desk, not for long. Morning, Neil.
There's all Billy No mates in the office.
Oh, I know, bless him. He is. Mind you, he's probably going to be, now I'm in here out of his way, he's going to probably be very productive now. Has my head, oh no, my head hasn't popped in for a little while. It will. So I'm just going to place a pin in where they nestle. And then again, I'm going to do my scant quarter of an inch down the side. You're not a pinner, you're a sewer over, are you, pins?
Definitely not.
Oh, absolutely
No.
not, no.
No. I feel very strongly about sewing over pins.
Me too. I did it once and never again because it didn't turn out very well, so.
Well, it's most of the time nothing's going to happen. I mean, I've
Yep.
sewn over by accident and it's been absolutely fine. But apparently, if you hit a pin hard with a needle, it can put your machine out of timing.
Oh, and no one wants
So,
that, do they, either?
Yeah.
No. I was thinking more of the aspect of something flying off, but certainly, because it's quite
Yeah.
can be quite costly, can't it?
Yeah.
I couldn't do without my machine. Do you know, if I had the choice of not having sleep or not having my machine, I'd choose sleep every time. I would.
Would you?
Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? You would. You'd choose sleep, Debbie, wouldn't you? You'd
No,
want
I've
to
already
keep sleep.
chosen my
wouldn't
machine. I don't get sleep.
you? You don't need to sleep. And all you do then is exactly the same as we did when we made our half square triangles, is you just press the seams to set them in so you've got your stitches nice and set in, and then we iron back.
The fabrics are just so pretty on this, aren't they?
It's not even that they're just pretty and you've got them in front of you, it's
Yeah.
the feel of them.
Yeah.
They really
lovely.
are. I got a little bit, well, it doesn't take much, does it, with me? You know me, it doesn't take much to get excited, but when they arrived, and especially the little bumblebees or wasps, are they
Yeah.
bumblebees? They're bees, aren't they?
I'd say bees. Oh, I don't know. I'd say bees.
They're bees, aren't they?
Yeah, because bees are nicer than wasps, aren't they?
No, they all have their
I got
function.
stung by a wasp last year. I was out walking the dog, and it just flew onto my hand and stung me for no. I didn't antagonise
Oh, you must have
it.
smelt sweet.
But I.
What did you have
my
your fingers
hand looked like a rubber washing up glove that somebody gone.
I'm
very
not laughing.
painful,
Yes,
actually.
I'm really sorry.
It was my left hand, so I could still sew. I couldn't do a lot with it. I did take my rings and my watch off while I was out walking the dog because I knew what was going to happen.
Well, as you know, I'm a crafter. I've got a craft blog, and I thought it'd be a really good idea to fill up a rubber glove with plaster of Paris to make a ring holder. So I put it in the jar and filled it up, not realising that it was too big to get back out again. So it was stuck there. I couldn't get it out, so I had to throw it all away. So don't do that. Just make sure you don't put it in a jar. So now we've made our huge, and it's no different. This here is no different to that. It's just more time consuming.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of people will know how to do that, but I wanted to get onto the actual quilting it. So all you do when you quilt it is you make yourself a sandwich. Oh, but we
And
won't
a nice
talk
cup
about-
of tea.
We won't talk about food because I haven't had breakfast yet. Have you had your breakfast?
No,
No, I haven't.
no, I don't do breakfast.
Oh, don't you? Oh, I couldn't function without breakfast. And what you need to do, I think in there, I don't know about you when you do it, Debbie, I think it says to do 4 inches bigger. I wouldn't have gone 4 inches, but if...
4 inches seems a lot.
It does, doesn't it, 4 inches? But there again, it depends if it's like my husband's fisherman 4 inches, because then that'd be that big. Did you catch a big one today? It's not big. And so all I'm going to do is make my sandwich, but you do want to be making the back and the wadding bigger than the topper.
And that's the polyester wadding you're using, isn't it? That we've got
It is.
in show today.
I love this. And if you were made any of the got your some for the advent calendars, you're going to have enough to make one of these with that, because this is just a piece of that, because I didn't want to open a new bag, but I love working with this. And then I am a huge fan of 505. I haven't got any. I know there was some behind there, but wow, I've discovered 404, which seems to work just as good. They came in a pack.
Because 404 is more for paper.
Yeah, I know, but I'm going to use the 505 then. But I was using it and it works.
Oh, okay.
Don't use it because it's for paper. It worked. And what I don't, again, about you, Debbie, I spray the wadding rather than the fabric.
Yeah. Is that a new one?
Nothing. Hang on. Okay. Am I allowed to use a new one?
Is there an open one in the...
I heard Kat go, no! I've got it. Sorry, I've got it, Kat.
Did you hear that?
I've got the one off the wall. Thank you. Sorry, Kat. They won't have us working together.
Here, you know.
Right. I love Kat. She's so easy to work for, though, isn't she? Just, you're doing this? Okay, fine. And all I'm going to do, and do this, please do this. We're really fortunate here to have a massive studio. Do it in a well-ventilated area. Yeah. And then all I'm going to do is lay that down on the fabric. That has been ironed first, Debbie.
Yeah.
Because you don't want any lumps and bumps. And that. See? Good, isn't it? I'm not going to prove that it works with a 404 because that's for paper, ladies and gentlemen, not for fabric. I ran out of 505. I just use it for everything. I'm probably using it for stuff I shouldn't, and then when I need it for the stuff I should, it's not there. And then all we do is just lay it down. And then I am going to give it a little press, just to make sure that backing fabric is... But you don't want to be pressing the wadding. Please don't go over the edge and press the wadding. Oh, got a little bit of steam going on there.
We haven't had many comments from you.
Well, there's nobody watching because we're being very naughty this morning, Debbie.
we can do what we want.
Well, you and me tend to, don't we? I did forget though. Perhaps it was a bit silly to forget that the boss is in today. I did forget that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then
there's not watching. It's fine.
I don't think he is actually. And then all I want to do now is I don't want my 1/4 inch because I want my needle to be back in the middle so that I can use my foot as a guide when I'm sewing. So I'm just going to put it back to a straight stitch, and I'm going to increase the stitch length this time because we are working with quite a lot of fabric. So I'm going to take it up to 3, and then it's up to you what you do. It's not up to me what I do because I can't free motion. All right, don't judge me. I'm getting better, but I'm still not camera worthy with my free motion.
Oh, really?
I have to wear the gloves and everything. Yeah, you know, some things I will practice. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to sew down one side of the line, and I'm going to have mine quite wide because I want you to see. But again,
I do a lot of free motion. I love it.
I'm going to try. Yes, I think it's one of those things that I think I'm amazing at, but when I look back at it, I don't think I can do it at all. But I will, I promise that will be my homework. Now I've got it following behind me, so I'm just going to cut that thread, and that was only because I didn't put it under the foot. And what you would do when you quilt a big piece, you would start from, well, I do personally. I know you've done quilting in the past, haven't you, Debbie? I start from the middle and work out.
Yes.
Because that way,
it makes it...
and pin, 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 pin. If it was something that big, pin, keep pinning. But just be prepared that you may need to move the pins because as you go out, it might ruffle up and we don't want any lumps and bumps. So you can see that I've just gone down the centre, either side. Personally, what I would probably do was go around all the arrows. That's what I would do. Just quilt and maybe do the triangles. Or you could go bananas and free motion if you wanted to. So, and now instead of doing it all, because again that's once you've done it, it's just a case of doing lines. All I'm now going to do is just baste the outside so that it doesn't go anywhere where I cut it. And I'm going to put it on the biggest stitch length. Oh, that's a nice one. That's a 5, Debbie. So can you believe that it's nearly the C word?
I know. This year just gone so quickly.
It's ridiculous.
Everyone's
Isn't it?
life's just going quickly at the moment.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think it's because we're getting older though?
I think it is. They say the older you get, the quicker time goes, doesn't it?
I
liken
playing
it
this
to
game.
winding a bobbin up. Because when the speed of your bobbin is always the same, but when you get more thread on the bobbin, it spins quicker. Do you know what I mean? When it starts, and then because you've got more thread on it, it speeds up, and I think that's my life.
So now I'm going to be looking at my bobbin thinking, there's Debbie, she's watching me.
There's her life disappearing before you.
I'd never noticed that before, but you're absolutely right, aren't you? That it does. I do like that.
Yeah. So when I expire, I'm going to have on my gravestone, she ran out of thread.
Oh, I like that. I like that. And she wasn't a diva at all, not like that Wendy. God. So have we lost all the viewers? Is it just you and me today then, Debbie?
We're getting loads of messages. I'm getting emails through, Kat, because there's... Oh, we're getting messages on the website and there's some emails. So just not a lot on Facebook. Great demos and loving us together. Oh, don't say that. They'll put us together again.
Debbie! That's wicked. That's wicked. Well, I'm not going to be available when they need me when you're on anymore then, quite frankly. I was so excited when it was you. I would like to work with Rebecca because Rebecca is the only one I haven't worked with, but when they said it was you,
so we're doing Yarn Lane at 12 o'clock. And the first thing Wendy said this morning was, do you knit or crochet? I was like,
I know.
No. And a face was like...
I thought you did everything.
I can knit. I can't crochet. I've tried so many times.
Oh, no. You can't crochet yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You will be.
What, by 1 o'clock?
So all I've done now, and I've simply just gone around the outside so that it holds the 3 fabrics together, and then I'm going to cut close to the edge, and that's why you allow a little bit of overlay on the wadding and the fabric, just in case you need to move your pins. You don't want any humps or lumps, although I've got a nice little one there, but if I didn't say anything, hopefully no one would have noticed.
Sue's enjoying the show. It's a grey day in the Isle of Wight.
Oh.
She says it's like watching a comedy duo. It's serious stuff here at Sewing
Very
Street,
serious
you know.
stuff. Oh, look at the state of that corner.
Amanda says she's watching, but she's supposed to be working. We're supposed to be working as well.
We are
Amanda. It's
working.
not going to happen today.
We are working. So yours will be much neater than mine because you don't have Debbie putting you off. So you can take your time with it. And the reason it's just gone a little puffy is because I should have been quilting here, but I just wanted to get onto the binding. So that's your massive quilt, but say it's going to be perfect just to go underneath. Sorry, just to be perfect to go underneath your sewing machine to stop it vibrating and making a noise at night.
I always have a mat underneath the sewing machine because I tend to push it out the way when I'm doing something else, and it screeches across the table.
It's like, whoa. That was a good impression of that, wasn't it? Now I'm going to do it slightly different that they do it in here, and I have done it both ways. They do it where you would fold a bit in and create you'd fold a triangle in, and then as you come round the corner, you tuck it in. I'm going to do it where it's just straight, so that when you get to the edge, you do your 1/4 of an inch, because I think anyone that's just learning, that's probably going to give a nicer finish, because sometimes when you do the one where you fold it in, you get a little bit of a bump as you turn it over.
Yeah.
But you're also a fan of doing like the single, because I'm doing the double, so you've got, when you turn it over, you've got the double thickness.
Yes.
You like the single as well, don't you? So
Yeah, I don't mind either way, to be honest. I tend to use a lot of shop-bought bias binding, which is mainly
you see,
single
look, and you
fold.
don't crochet or knit. Debbie!
I know. I said 2 years on I'm going to get caught out one of these days because I can't sew at all.
No, that's not true. And what you want to do is start down. I wouldn't start at the top. I'd probably start down the side somewhere. And I tell you what I'm going to do first actually for you. I'm going to show you how to put 2 pieces of binding together, because the fabric is not going to be as long as you need it.
Yeah.
And That's a neat little trick. So all you need to do is cut your binding strips, and these are what I actually do. I don't know what you do. I do 2.5. I always do 2.5.
So I normally do 2. Actually, for double fold,
Yeah.
definitely 2.5
Yeah.
because it uses more fabric in the seam allowance
Yes.
than a single fold, doesn't it?
Definitely, and that's only because as you're folding it over, you've got so many more layers that you're trying to
Yeah.
squeeze over, so you're going to create more height. So definitely. Yeah, I definitely need a new blade. I fail because I normally put one in. Just trying to think. I think I've been doing foundation paper piecing.
There's a little alpha down there, I think, that I was using earlier.
That's the one that you have to press a button. I get very confused with that. You jest. I couldn't work it last.
Stripology's been popular today.
Honestly, it's revolutionised my quilting. I'm sorry to bang on about it, but it really has.
Jan should be helping her husband with the packing because she's moving house.
Oh, lovely.
But she's sat with her 2 miniature schnauzers on her knee instead because she's loving the show. Picture. Oh, we can't. Can we do pictures? We
Well,
can't
you
do
can, you
pictures.
see. You can see it now, can't you? Can you see it? Yeah, I can't.
Wendy's wonky seams are down to us too. That's blame us for your wonky seams, Wendy.
Sorry. What, my wonky seams?
No, Wendy's wonky seams.
Oh,
I think
that's okay.
she's trying. No, Wendy Durrant.
Oh, okay. Not my wonky seams.
Not your wonky seams. Penum says, would it be possible to use hat dyes for cutting materials for the quilt? I said, I've no idea. If you've got a die that cuts 5-inch squares.
Oh, a die. Sorry, I thought like a Big Shot or something.
Yeah. Presume so. I don't know what hat. Can you use hat dyes? I don't know what a hat dye is.
Yeah, I think it is. It's the ones that you feed through the rollers, isn't it? I think it is.
Yeah.
I've tried before, but mine are very old, so it didn't cut round them all. But
Yeah.
I know that I've seen a lot of people rave on and say, yeah, it's brilliant, it cuts it. So if it's 5 inches, I can't see why not. Just give it a go. Just give it a go. But the Stripologies, or actually, I mean, you can just use the normal creative grid. It's just that with the Stripology, you get the same every single time. With your binding, you just cut, I think for that it says to do 5 strips. Now, it's obviously they're going to be long strips, but it does explain it in there how to do it. But it's still not going to be long enough to go all the way around.
Yeah.
So you need to join them. And to do that, you need to get your strips, so pretend these are really long, and then we place right sides together, but you want to leave a little bit at the top and a little bit at the side, and you want to draw a line. You're probably like me, Debbie, you just go for it, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, but when you first do it, then just draw a line, because what you're going to do is you're going to sew from here to here, and the neater you can get it here, the neater the continuation of the line's going to be. What are we like for time?
We've got 7 minutes.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Oh, I've had a lovely morning, Debbie. You've only got 7 minutes. You're all right. You'll be okay. You've got Susan back then. You'll be nice, peaceful hour.
Yeah, and then we're knitting and crocheting.
Not excited much.
Sheila likes crocheting. She says it's easy and finds it quicker than knitting.
I'm not going to lie. It is.
Julie, we did get your picture of the bug fabric quilt, but for my grandson, not good on his new one phone. We have a technical issue this morning.
Oh. I turned up.
So we've got graphics all over the place, and we can't do. At least you've got us both on the screen, so that's a bonus, isn't it? Today?
All I've done is cut the corner off where I've done the seam, and again press the seam, and then you open it up. And then you've created a nice join in your binding, and then you just cut your dog ears off and you're good to go. And then all you need to do is just iron it together. If you're using the double thickness, iron it. If you're using the single, then you would iron it in half, and then do that and then that. So brilliant. Now let's get on to the binding bit. I love binding, do you?
Yeah, we've got bias binding makers on the website, but
I've got a bias binding maker.
Have you? Have you got the?
Don't ask me any questions because I've never used it.
We've got those little ones, haven't we?
Yeah, those ones.
Not the mechanical
no, those
ones.
ones. I've never used it. And then what we want to do is we want to leave as much as we possibly can down one side, because we want to be able to do 1/4 of an inch at the end and you need to be able to put 2 pieces together. So I'm going to start sewing, and then I'm going to finish 1/4 of an inch from the edge. So I'm just going to be sewing a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to put it back down because we are doing a seam. I'm going to put it back down to maybe a 2.6, 2.8.
Okay. Put message back in again. The hat dies should have been HST dies. Half square triangles. Don't you love predictive text? I don't see why not. That's it, if it's the right size. You could do them any size you like, really, couldn't you? As long as they're all the same.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? If they turn out to be 5 inch, so I'm just going to move it back to my 1/4 of an inch because I changed it. This doesn't really matter if it's not quite 1/4 of an inch. It just means you're not going to have so much of the binding showing. Because sometimes I don't know what you're like, Debbie. I turn my machine off and on, and then I forget where it was. You can believe that, can't you?
To be honest, I don't change the stitch very often.
Ooh. Do you not? Do you just go with what's on there?
Yeah, well, I can. I've used it for so long and so often that I can tell where the seam should be.
Yeah. So all I've done, I've left this little dangly bit here, it's quite a big dangly bit, and I've sewn down to 1/4 of an inch at the end, and then we're just going to turn around the corner. So I've sewn 1/4 of an inch to the end. We're going to turn round, and then all we want to do is we want to throw that away so that we now have a continuation of that line going down here. Oh, that's good, Elliot. You're good this morning, Elliot. And you can see that it's created a 45-degree corner. And then all we need to do is pull it back again and line it up with the top. And that's it.
Love a mitered corner.
That is it, Debbie. Well, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's one of those things like, I can't do that. You absolutely can do it. That's all you do. And then I'm just going to stabilise it. Now, I've done it both ways, Debbie. I start sewing from the end, or a couple of millimetres.
Yeah.
Some people sew 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't really make much difference. But
no, I go from the end.
Yeah, I go from the end. Oh, lovely. So I'm just going to start sewing down that side until I get to a 1/4 inch from the other end.
We've only got 3 minutes.
Oh, it's easy. I'll have it hand sewn as well.
So confident.
You're trying to scare me, aren't you?
Well, Leslie's supposed to be working, and she's a little bit distracted. She says we're more interesting than work.
So we just do exactly the same again. So I've got to 1/4 of an inch from the end. So I'm going to turn it around, and we want that continuation. Are we coming in then, Elliot? Lovely. There we go. I've sewn 1/4 of an inch, and I want that continuation. So I don't want it to be here, and I don't want it to be here. It needs to be in a continual line, and that will give you your exact 45 degrees. And then we pull it back down, line up the top, and then I'm not going to pin it because Debbie's putting me under pressure because I've only got 3 minutes. I feel like I'm on a game show.
Now, the quilt that you can make when you get the bundle is 40 by 48 inches. So if you just joined us, Wendy's just making a smaller version, she's making a sewing machine mat. Because otherwise we would have spent a whole hour sewing together half square triangles, which isn't the most interesting thing to watch.
It's a really, really super easy project. And it's one of those ones that once you've got the technique, it's something you can just sit in front of the telly and just do all your cutting out, and then obviously you can't sew. You've got to have your sewing machine on the side, but you can just sit there and sew away. And it didn't take a huge amount of time.
It's a nice kind of introduction into quilting as well, isn't it? So
it's fantastic.
They're very simple. They look really effective, but have a play with them because there's so many different effects that you can.
Do you know? I think that's the thing with the half square triangles. Depending where you put them, how you line your fabric up, then you can get a different look. As I say, you've created arrowheads down the centre, but all it is just the way you position them. So yeah, please don't be scared. This will be an amazing introductory quilt to do. Now I've come down to the last side, and all I'm going to do is I've done my corners. Now if you do need to have a look, then just go back over the first couple of corners. And then all we do, we've got that final piece, and this is why we've left quite a bit. So we put them together, And then we're just going to cut them. So we're going to cut one, overlap, and then I'm going to just place a mark on one of them, all the way across both of them. So I'm going to draw down, and you really want to do it both sides. And then all you're going to do is you're going to put those two marks right side together. And this is the bit that looks a bit confusing. So you just put those bits right side together. Just going to line those marks up.
Is it Sharon who's making 12 quilts?
12.
Sharon. 12 quilts she's making for her grandchildren.
Whoa.
Wow. She's giggling into a cough. Stop watching. Go and get your quilts done. You'll never get them done by Christmas.
Boring. Right, sorry, I've marked the inside as well, just so I know where I'm going. Oh, I never know where I'm going, Debbie. You want to be in my life half an hour. Half an hour's all you wouldn't stand any longer than that.
And Wendy, it's not the first time we've been called hinge and bracket,
Oh,
I have to say.
no. No, not at all. Right, and then you're just going to...
We were talking about hinge and bracket last time we were together, and you didn't realise they were men.
No, I didn't. Didn't know they were men. No, I didn't. And I didn't realise how young they actually were.
Yeah.
So all I've done, because you didn't do anything, Debbie, you just sat there,
I'm
didn't
just
you?
doing nothing.
Is I can now just sew along there, and I've got a really nice join in the middle. Whereas if you had the bit where you fold it over, sometimes you get quite a bit of bulk there. Then all you do is just fold your corners out, all your corners. So I would sew that bit up first, don't leave that hanging. And then, I'm going to go and get some breakfast after this, Debbie. And then we just fold it back and hand sew all the way around the outside, and then you've got a nice little mat to put your sewing machine on.
And you've probably got enough left over from your bundle to be able to make that as well. You're right. Well done.
I've nearly made something. I will do it one day, Debbie.
Well, it's been really popular for the bundle. We'll see you again on Yarn Lane.
Yeah, I'm not excited.
At 12 o'clock. And that was a silly laugh. I don't know where that came from. I've got somebody else's laugh. That was the laugh of a chicken. This is the bundle, including the pattern as well. So you did, I've got the plain one in there too. So was it 4 metres altogether we're getting? And the pattern, and I think this is really important, the pattern is actually using the fabrics. So you don't have to struggle to identify which one it is, which pattern it is. So we've got the flowers, hexagons, the larger flowers. That's a panel with 4 on there. And you've got the bumblebees. You only need 2 squares of that one, so you're going to get loads left over. And you've got your white, and this is what you're going to be making, which is amazing. So you'll need your own backing fabric, and you'll need some wadding as well. We have sold out of this fabric before in the past. It's always a really popular one here on Sewing Street. So if you'd like to order again, it's £54.99, 0800 001 4433, or you can have a look on the website. And if you do need any wadding, batting, backing fabrics, we've got lots of stuff. We've got quilters threads and quilters gloves, and we've got all kind of malarkey on that website, you know. Do go and have a look. So off you pop them. Go and place your order, and go and get some work done, Leslie. You know, you can't just stop working and watch telly. But I'm glad you did. And in the next show, Susan's going to be back again, Susan Briscoe, and we're going to be talking Sashiko. So we'll see you again in a short while.
Have you heard about Yarn Lane, a TV show dedicated to knitting, crochet and all things yarn, bringing you demonstrations from our expert guests as well as the latest tools. Watch us on Freeview Channel 74, Sky Channel 670 or on our YouTube channel. And find out what's coming up on the show by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our email newsletter or visit the programme guide on our website at www.yarnlane.com. If you you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Hi, I'm Sam from Adventures in Crafting. I'm a craft and crochet teacher based in Tring in Hertfordshire. Since lockdown, I've moved all of my classes onto Zoom, so I now have customers from all over the country. I teach lots of crafts, but crochet is my specialism. I became passionate about crochet when I was pregnant with my 4th child and in desperate need of some me time. Crochet became my sanctuary and I've crocheted every day since then. I'm a qualified teacher and 8 years ago I began teaching crochet. I love sharing my passion with other people. I design patterns, sell kits and teach lots of classes. My classes range from beginners to next steps, specific makes and clubs. I also like to design crochet alongs. My most recent one was my autumn granny square crochet along, which resulted in me designing this allotment jumper, which I love to wear when I'm out gardening and looking after my chickens. My crochet tip for you is to enjoy it. Crochet should be about taking part in a hobby that brings you pleasure. My claim to fame is that I met Kirsty Allsop at the Handmade Fair and I gave her one of my crochet sunflower brooches. I'm so excited to be taking part in Yarn Lane and I hope you'll enjoy my demonstrations.
Hi, I'm Wendy Orlando and I'm a craft blogger. You can find me over at thecraftyco.com, and if you do head on over and have a peep, you will see that I'm a tutorial blogger. I do all kinds of crafts, but my passions are crochet, knitting and sewing, which I've done for over 45 years. In that time, I've made lots of mistakes, but I have learnt lots of tricks and top tips that I can't wait to share. What I'd like to bring to the Sewing Street table is to show that you don't need to have gone to university or have a degree in design to be able to sew. You just need passion, a bit of courage to take the first steps, and a whole lot of patience. Oh, and an unpicker. You will need an unpicker. I do hope that you will follow me as I take my Sewing Street journey, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Have you heard about Yarn Lane, a TV show dedicated to knitting, crochet and all things yarn, bringing you demonstrations from our expert guests as well as the latest tools. Watch us on Freeview Channel 74, Sky Channel 670 or on our YouTube channel. And find out what's coming up on the show by following us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our email newsletter or visit the programme guide on our website at www.yarnlane.com. If you'd like to get in touch with us during our live show and send in any messages or any questions, then you can do it on studio@sewingstreet.com. Alternatively, you can message us on our official Facebook page.
Hi, I'm Sam from Adventures in Crafting. I'm a craft and crochet teacher based in Tring in Hertfordshire. Since lockdown, I've moved all of my classes onto Zoom, so I now have customers from all over the country. I teach lots of crafts, but crochet is my specialism. I became passionate about crochet when I was pregnant with my 4th child and in desperate need of some me time. Crochet became my sanctuary and I've crocheted every day since then. I'm a qualified teacher and 8 years ago I began teaching crochet. I love sharing my passion with other people. I design patterns, sell kits and teach lots of classes. My classes range from beginners to next steps, specific makes and clubs. I also like to design crochet alongs. My most recent one was my autumn granny square crochet along, which resulted in me designing this allotment jumper, which I love to wear when I'm out gardening and looking after my chickens. My crochet tip for you is to enjoy it. Crochet should be about taking part in a hobby that brings you pleasure. My claim to fame is that I met Kirsty Allsop at the Handmade Fair and I gave her one of my crochet sunflower brooches. I'm so excited to be taking part in Yarn Lane and I hope you'll enjoy my demonstrations.
Hello then, welcome back again to Sewing Street. We've got Susan Briscoe back in the studio again. I want to give you a quick reminder of the book that we launched here in the 9 o'clock show this morning. And this is the Book of Boro, which is every single copy that we have is signed. It was very, very busy in the earlier show. We've got 10% off today only if you wanted to order the book. So therefore it's only £14.39 for today. Now I've got a bit of a short show in this hour, because it's not an hour, in this 40 minutes. So I'm going to whiz you through everything that we have available for you panel wise, and then straight over to Susan. So if you've got any questions or anything that you want to come through and ask, then just let me know. In fact, we'll have a look at those in just a second. Let's go straight over to Susan. And we had such a lovely show this morning, Susan. We had lots of nice comments as well.
Yes,
it's a
we did.
fascinating topic.
We did. Actually, I've been looking at some of the comments I've been getting on my Facebook groups as well, because I run several groups on Facebook. I think I'm allowed to plug them here, aren't I?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We've started a new one called The Book of Boro, which is basically, it's about the book and people sharing their Boro projects. We've also got the Ultimate Sashiko Source Book, named after the Ultimate Sashiko Source Book, which is my book on Sashiko. And we've got one on the Ultimate Kogin collection as well, which is the Kogin, which is kind of counted embroidery version of Sashiko. So I've got those 3 groups, and we've been getting comments on that as well. So I did actually promise to somebody I would do a little recap on the picture later on as well. But yes, all kinds of lovely comments, so it's been great.
Yeah, lovely. So what have you got in front of you there?
Right, well, what I've got here is a whole heap of old jackets and things that are made from old jackets. Some of these were the inspiration for the jacket that is on the front cover, which we will show you in a minute, because we've now got a model to wear that for us. And I'll show you this one first. This one really is rather old. I'll hold it up a little bit. And you see how raggedy that's got? You can see the little bit there. I'll hold it across there like that. So this is what you call, well, there's a few different names actually. You can call it a donza, you can call it noragi, or you can call it a hanten, which is literally means half wear. They're just different kinds of work jackets and different areas of Japan. You know, like we have different names for things like a jersey or a ganzi or whatever. They call them by different names.
So how old would that be?
Sorry, how?
How old would that be?
This one? Well, there are fabrics in here which are probably at least 150 years old. This was probably made at the end of the 19th century. And you can see it's it's quite worn through. In fact, in places it's worn through just to one layer. There's a little bit there when I'm holding it up. The light's almost coming through it actually from behind. And it's been made as a kind of patchwork. So a very sort of random patchwork, and then it's been lined and it's been stitched through both the layers. And some of the stitching on this, it's like huge spirals within squares, and I've used that. There's a throw in the book that I've stitched using that kind of pattern off here. I'll show you the inside of it actually as well, because on the inside you can really see on there, you can see the stitching. I don't know if we're better off seeing this on the overhead. You can see that the blue stitching on the natural linen fabric that's at the top of the jacket really quite clearly. So, you know, as you probably noticed before, a lot of these pieces, they're stitched using blue thread. They're not just stitched using white thread, and some of them are stitched with thread that now looks very grey. So, you know, you can play about with coloured threads with them. So it's a rather wonderful old jacket. And another wonderful old jacket. These are all ones that were featured in the book. This
so
one is quite
passed down generations?
Well, some people think that, you know, Boro jackets may have been worn from one generation to another. It's possible that somebody had the same jacket and they just wore it an awful lot, really.
Yeah.
And the reason they've survived is that people very often would stick these things in a thing called the kura, which is like the storehouse, the storeroom for the house. And they've just got forgotten about. But of course, an awful lot of old Boro has actually been destroyed, because people, once we got into the 1950s and 60s, people didn't want to be reminded of times when life was really hard and they didn't have anything very much. I mean, in fact, I was just talking to my husband about this yesterday. We were trying to think of an analogy with some textile thing in the UK, and the best thing I could come up with was proggy or clippy mats, if you know what those are, where people would take the old clothes and a piece of sacking and they made a rug and they used it as a hearth rug. Now, my grandmother and her sister used to make these, and they would make one, and the houses they lived in, you know, there was a front parlour. Well, they never had one in the front parlour. They would make it for what they used to call the middle room, which was the second room behind that, which they used as the living room. The parlour, of course, was kept for best. So they'd make a new one for there every winter, and the one that had been there would be demoted to going out into the back kitchen. Now, the thing is, when my mother, when she got married in 1955, although she was living in the same type of house, there is no way she would have had one of those in her house, much less when she moved to a brand new house in 1960. And it's a little bit sort of the same kind of thing, really.
Yeah.
You know, people, you go somewhere like, I don't know if they have them at the Black Country Museum, they certainly have them at Beamish. You go to a museum like that, you'll see these rugs on the floor. But people of like my mother's age group wouldn't have had them in the house, although my grandparents did. So it's maybe a little bit like that, you know, trying to think of some sort of analogy. This jacket is one that I find really interesting because inside it's got some quite stunning fabrics. I'll try and open it out there. Can we get an overhead shot of that bit there? There we go. You can just about see this in the photo in the book. This piece of fabric has got one of the Buddhist treasures on it, which is a treasure scroll. And you can see it there and the little cords that wrap it up. But when the person made this jacket, they hid it on the inside, probably because they thought it would give a bit of good luck to the wearer. And they put the plainer fabrics on the outside. But I think it's a really interesting feature. And again, this was stitched in dark blues. It's like Sashiko thread, well, basically the same stuff, stitching the two layers together. But this one, the stitches just go up and down most of the time, I think. Yep, they do. And that's what I did on the one on the book cover. We'll get that shown in just a moment. And I've got yet another. Oh no, that's not. That is made out of jackets. I'll show you that in a sec. And I'll show you this piece in a sec. I'll tell you what. We'll get my husband to come in now. I've asked him to come in. Where should we get him to stand so he'll be seen the most?
We should have some like catwalk music. Or
Well, we haven't. I don't think we've got any catwalk music, have we? Is he better actually sort of in front of the table?
No, you'll have to go around the back.
You'll have to come round the back. Oh, you
won't.
won't see him properly from there. Okay, he's not going to say anything much. But this is the jacket off the front cover, which I think is going to give you a little twirl. Yeah, you can tell he's a professional model. No, but he wore this jacket. The first time we had it out was at the Tokyo Dome Quilt Show, the Tokyo International Great Quilt Festival, in January, and because I was stitching it while we were over in Japan. And yeah, you can smile. I was stitching when we were over there, and we were going to the show, and it was just about finished. And I said, you know, why don't I finish sewing the collar down? You can wear it tomorrow. So we turned up there, and you were constantly mobbed, weren't you, by Japanese quilters. Oh, Sugoi, oh, Subarashi, you know, it's wonderful, it's great. And they absolutely loved it. And that was the first time that you wore it. But the thing that's different between his jacket and the ones that I've just shown you here, if you compared the two for size, his is a lot longer, and it's a lot longer in the sleeve as well. So if he holds his sleeve out, you see that. Yeah. That's where the wrist comes to. And the body panels are wider as well. So I made it a little bit bigger to fit a modern person rather than a 19th century Japanese person, because that would have been a little bit on the small side. Oh yeah, and the inside's pretty snazzy too. The lighter colour at the top, that was inspired by the jacket that I just showed you. It had that sort of linen-y colour in it. And all of the fabrics on this, apart from the patches, are actually modern patchwork fabrics. Japanese patchwork fabrics. There's some of the Olympus stripes. There's a bit of Moda on it as well, actually. That's a Moda one. Yeah. So there's quite a few different fabrics in it. And then we used bits of antique Japanese fabric that we bought at a flea market to put patches on the jacket in places where it would be likely to be, you know, get worn. Yeah. So there's a little bit on the cuffs and the elbows and shoulders and things like that. And of course, he's bagged it now, so it will get worn. You're going to wear it just as a dressing gown around the house, aren't you? So yeah, as it starts to get more holes and gets more worn out, I'll have to keep putting little extra bits on it. And I'll tell you what, while we've got you here, I'll get you to model the yogi as well. If you just step sort of to the side a little bit.
I feel quite disappointed that Glenn's not on the cover of the book.
Well, remember we did have to produce the book. All the photography was done during lockdown. so he couldn't be, unfortunately. But there are some pictures of him on my website and yeah, on the Facebook pages. Yeah, if you put it on put it on sort of kimono-wise first. And try not to step on it because this is very, very long. So this is him now wearing the yogi. And, oh, actually, I see why you picked that T-shirt as well, because it does kind of go with it. On this, as I think I was saying before, most of the fabrics are actually modern. This one here was from Thailand, but it looks like antique Japanese fabric. And this one is a Japanese patchwork print. But the piece of fabric that goes right across the shoulders was a strip of old Japanese fabric. And I don't know if you can sort of, if you turn around, maybe the camera can sort of see there's a little diddly hole there that got patched and another little one up here. So before I sewed that on, I did all these little Boro style repairs, and like the pieces I showed you where the person who'd done the patching had very carefully matched the colours, I tried to pick something so you could just about see that it was different, but was almost but not quite the same. So there's little bits all the way through there, and that's next. Oh, there you go on the blue bit there on the back. I don't know if you can see. Can we move the camera up to there? There's two little holes there. I just love that old piece of fabric, and of course that is going across these fabrics. So it's not as though the wadding is going to come out or anything like that, because I was a little bit aware with this one, you know, don't use fabric that's got holes in it without repairing the holes first, because you will be putting wadding in it and the wadding might come through the holes, and you might not like that too much. But anyway, thank you very much. I think the way you're going to wear it on the sofa is the other way around, isn't it? You're going to, tell you what, get you out of that. Yeah. Oh, they've already seen that on the previous show, but you weren't watching.
Is this one of the projects in the book?
It is. It's towards the back of the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, all the full instructions are there for constructing it. Yeah, so if you flip, there you go, there it is.
Wow.
Yeah. Can I get you out of that?
That's amazing. Oh, and you've got your smaller version.
Oh yeah, and I've got the little mini one as well. There's a mini version of the hand ten too, but I didn't actually bring that. If you're going to wear this, you know, say you want to snuggle on the sofa and it's a bit chilly and you're watching something on the TV or whatever, you can of course put it on that way around.
Yeah.
Like that. And there are pictures from kabuki plays showing characters who are samurai sleeping in one of these, and they've got one arm out through this so they can get their sword.
Oh.
So there is sort of like a strange logic to it. And if you go back to the Heian era, which is sort of like the early medieval period really in Japan, back in those days people actually used to sleep just under layers of clothing. They didn't have separate bedding. The aristocracy at any rate. So it probably all goes back to those days, I would think, at some point. So that's the yogi, which I will just drop it down there. And I can just stay on the theme of old jackets for a minute.
Yeah,
and then I'll do a little recap on that piece.
Okay.
Because this is another piece that we featured in the book. This has been put together as a furoshiki, which is a wrapping cloth. Used to wrap things up, which is sort of squarish.
There's quite a trend for that at the moment,
There
isn't there?
is. They've become very, very popular, and they are incredibly convenient. We have zillions of the things at home. Actually, that'd be a good thing to come on and do as a show, would be to do a show on how to do a Sashiko version of one, because that's something I used to do as a class, and at the moment I can't teach it as a class, but we could do it as a show. Anyway, this is supposed to be the right side when you use it, obviously, because when you look at all the seams, it's all been sewn by hand, but they're all very, very neat on this side. And when you turn it over, you can see it's actually made out of bits of old firemen's jackets.
Is it?
With the text on it.
I thought you were going to say flags.
No, the two panels that have the circles on would have gone together to make the centre back. I think there might be two different jackets, actually. I don't know. I'm trying to see how the kanji characters on this bit match up with that. But I did actually check some of the writing on it, and it was from a place down in Kyushu, actually, which is the most southern island of Japan. I did it using Google Translate. I just waved it over the text and had a little look. But yeah, it's from somewhere near Hakata City originally. So, you know, that just shows how you could take a garment which has been worn and remake it as something else. I love the way that it has all these little sort of fade lines down here, and that's where the fabric's been folded into the collar over many, many years, and it's all faded, so you've got all these sort of lines in it. It's just a wonderful thing. And then also on the theme of, that's illustrating the history section, by the way. Also on the theme of Boro, we have this rather fabulous lump.
Oh, Julia's messaged in. She'd like to know how much fabric you need to make the yogi.
To make the yogi? Oh gosh, it's all in the book, actually.
Oh, is that?
I would have to look it up very briefly. Yeah, the big piece, ooh, where are we? I do give 2 different options for the lining as well, because I made the lining by piecing together lots of other fabrics. So it does tell you roughly how many pieces you need. The upper body part of the yogi, it took 2 pieces of cotton fabric. Do you want it in inches or do you want it in centimetres?
Oh, let's do inches.
We'll do inches. 92 by 17 inches. And then we had the 2 pieces of the sleeves. They're 32 by 16. You know what I was saying about making the panels a bit wider than they would have been traditionally. Yeah, there's 4 pieces of cotton fabric, 20 inches by 17 inches for the lower part panels of the body outer part. It takes you through absolutely everything here that you need. And the thing is, you know, I made the sleeves out of a different fabric to the body. And the piece of fabric I used for the body, the main reason why mine has got floral fabric at the bottom, was that lovely piece of tie hand-woven fabric that I used at the top. It just wasn't long enough. So I thought, well, how would they have dealt with it? So I looked at a lot of pictures of other yogi in museums. I mean, the one that we've got hanging there actually on the figure.
The original one.
That is one piece all the way down. But others that I'd seen in museums, they would have another piece of fabric around the bottom. So I thought, right, I will deal with it that way.
Yeah.
So you can play about with it according to what you've got. And the one I've made is very, very long. I would just trip off if I tried to wear that one. But, you know, Glyn could put it on the sofa and it would go right down to his toes. But I should mention we live in an old cottage, which is, even though it's got central heating, it's not the warmest of places in the middle of winter. And if we get a really hard winter, I can see him sitting there, you know, with that on. And me having to make another one for me. But yes, it is actually, it's all in here, obviously. There's, you know, full requirements lists for absolutely everything in the book.
Okay.
So I would say if you're interested in a particular project, go for that. But just remember, you can mix and match the fabrics that you've got, or you can create another piece by sewing pieces together and then trimming it down to size. But this one I wanted to show you. This is actually it's what's called a bodo or a bodoko, which is basically a sleeping mat. It's kind of futon.
Oh.
And it has been made out of several old work jackets. You can sort of see the shape there. It's got a bit of a collar piece there.
Yeah.
That's an extra piece that's been sewn on top. And these work jackets, when they were first made, they've got beautifully neat rows of Sashiko going back and forth on them. But it's been pieced together out of that. And then you turn it over. It weighs a ton. This is why I'm not holding it up. It's really heavy. I didn't realise it was going to be so difficult to hold up when I got it originally. Because I did buy this one online from a company called Ichiroya. I used to have a kimono flea market, which sadly is now closed down. And when it arrived, I thought, well, it's so heavy, I can't use this for talks because I can't hold it up on my own. My arms will drop off. And if you look at this side, again, this is made out of another 2 jackets. It's got 2 different strips on the collar sections there. They're 2 different fabrics. And then rather bizarrely here,
Oh, look at
it's a pair of old trousers. If you look really, really closely, you can see it's got the belt loops and everything on it, and what looks like a bit of the fly buttons and everything. So that was the original inspiration, in a way, for making something out of a pair of old jeans. You know, the bag that I'm very sorry, I left it hanging up at home, but it is in the book, and we've shown you the pictures of it. Yeah, that was where I got the idea of making something where you could see the construction of a pair of old trousers in it.
So we've got about 20 minutes.
We have.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I said I would do a little quick recap on the, I'll just drop down there, on doing that panel. I think I put it in the top of the trolley and then I put everything else on top of it. I did. Oh dear. Yeah, so the panel, just to sort of recap very, very briefly. It starts out, whoops, like that, where you've got the little piece, the little strip that I folded and I just pinned it down, I'm sewing it on. And then the next bit that we go to with it, put that down there. I've sewn lots of strips to look like things like hills, and stripy ones going up and down to look a bit like trees. And this one here, I'll stitch cream thread on that, make it look like rushes. And then I'll put a piece across the bottom, which will become the water, and stitch back and forth on that. So it's really very, very, very easy to do. But I did say I would just briefly mention that now.
Okie doke.
And I've got some Sashiko panels to show you.
You
as well.
have indeed.
And
yes.
you've got them all over there as well. The last time I was on, this is what we were doing. Oh dear, this is such a great heap of stuff. You've got the panels there, which are the complete panels. I've got some complete panels too.
So which ones have you got?
I've got the 2020, this is the new 2020 geometric panel, which you have got there,
Right.
I think. I don't know that yours are actually open, so I thought I'd bring some that were.
Yes, because I get into trouble for opening too many things. I have to buy them all.
Oh dear, that's a real hardship with this one. So it's got a selection of 8 large and 8 small geometric patterns on this one.
Okay.
I'll just sort of try and lift it up gently, pull it across the table so you can see some more of the designs that are on there. These are all traditional Sashiko patterns, by the way. The little ones on this come from a jacket that I saw that came from Sakata City. Now, of course, you don't have to stitch them as one big piece. You can chop them up and make other things out of them, which is why they've got these dashed lines separating the different areas. They're really kind of cutting lines. If you want to keep it as one panel, though, you can, and you could stitch those lines afterwards. And if you're going to do that, I would suggest doing the outer line, which is only a 1/4 inch from the edge. I would stitch that after you've sewn a border or something around it. You know, say you're going to make it into a wall hanging or something along those lines. This is one that I've cut up. I edge all the bits. I do it, it's like a sort of a faux overlock stitch on my machine. That's the best way to describe it. It's not a true overlocker. It just does like 2 stitches forward and 2 stitches to the side. And I tend to leave them sewn together almost like bunting until I actually want to stitch, and then I snip them off and separate them out. So that's the green version of this one here.
Do those marks disappear when they're washed?
They do, they do. They come off when they're washed. Try not to press it before you actually wash it, because it makes the, it's water-soluble ink, it makes it a little bit more resistant to coming off in the wash. It will eventually come off.
Right.
But if you have pressed it, it might take a little bit more than one wash to do it. And then we also have this panel. Actually, I'll keep this folded in 2 halves. This one has got some of the Camon crests on it, and this again is the 2020 panel. It's the new one. So we've got the crests down the outside, various different designs on them, including things like an iris and wisteria. And then down the middle, we've got the names of the 4 seasons done as kanji characters. Oh, sorry, I just realised I've got it the wrong way around, haven't I? I will eventually get the hang of the fact that this new camera sees things the same direction as me. That's better. So it's spring, summer, autumn, winter, going down the middle. And on the other side, we have, again, another 4 designs. So again, you get 8 large squares and 8 small ones. And then these designs that run through the middle are what you call hitomezashi, which is the 1-stitch Sashiko, where you're just stitching back and forth, and the stitches sometimes cross over. So those are in the centre of that one. So those are the new panels.
We've still got a bit of a problem with the graphics on the screen.
Have we?
If you have a look on the website, on sewingstreet.com, all of the panels are on pre-order, so we've got different coloured panels for you as well. So
I'm sure they're all there, aren't they? Because I had a look a couple of days ago.
They are all there. We just can't get the numbers on the screen.
Oh, I see. Right. Sorry about that, folks. And I brought some more bits along that I've been stitching since the last time I was on the show. This is a colour that we haven't actually got. This was a limited edition that we did last year, I have to admit. But I wanted to show you what I'd done. I think I showed you this last time too. When I wanted to stitch the geometric designs, which are in squares, I wanted to stitch them within a circle. So all I did is I just got a circle template, drew around it, just stitched the bits that were inside the circle, and once it was washed, you see, all the white lines go away.
Yeah.
And when I put these together, because I'm making some Sashiko samplers, I thought I was going to be a lot further along with them by now. It's the old story. You always think it's going to be quick to do something, and it isn't. It's just taken me a lot longer to stitch the panels than I thought. When I put them together in the samplers, and I'm running this as a stitch along at the moment on my blog as well, I'm going to stitch that circle as quilting, because I'll put these together with some sashing. I'll put probably a black wadding in some of them, because that doesn't show through. You know, if it does bead through, you don't really see it. And I will stitch around those circles, and that will tend to make the geometric designs sort of work really nicely with the circular come on crest designs as well. And I've been busily working on quite a few of these. Oh, here are two of those Tommy's Ashley patterns. These are off the first panels, and these two, I've stitched them in two slightly different threads. Well, the same colours that I've used here, I've used a turquoise and a bright blue. So the stitches going one way are done in turquoise, and then going the other way, they're done in the bright blue. Just gives you a little hint as to how they're actually constructed. But the mega project I've been on with, if I can grab them from down here. Oop, they're here. Got them. My idea for the sampler was to mix in a nice piece of patterned fabric, which could be from your stash, or you know, it could be something that you've got extra or whatever.
I wasn't expecting to see a fabric like that come
Really?
out. No.
It's actually a piece of furnishing fabric.
Is it?
Yeah, but if you look at the design, it looks very Japanese. It's probably made in the 1980s. And this is the sort of thing I know a lot of people have in their stash. So I took the colours from that. Oops, escaping there. I took the colours from it and I echoed them in the colours that I've used here, you see, for the blocks. So this is where the coloured Sashiko threads come into their own, really.
Yeah.
You know, you can mix and match. I'll just keep putting these down in the middle, that's probably easier. And you can see the shades that I've used. But I tried to pick up the colours that are in this panel. So I did set myself quite a big target for this, because I decided I was going to do the green version of both the 2020 panels and the 2019 ones, and combine the whole lot in one really huge quilt. I just realised I'm doing it again, I'm putting them round the wrong way. That's better.
So how's that going to look with the furnishing fabric? Where's that going to fit
Right,
into it?
the furnishing fabric I'm going to have in the middle, and because
Right.
I haven't got a huge amount of it, I've decided to reverse applique a circle, and that will sit inside a square, and then that will be surrounded by the smaller squares.
Right.
And then we're going to move into the Camon crest designs for the next round. It'll be like a medallion quilt. I've already put some plans for these on my blog, and if you go on my website, susanbriscoe.com, there's a little thing at the top that says, so go view my blog or something like that. You click on that, you go straight into the blog. And I've put these diagrams showing how I'm going to put them together. You see, one of my other great passions, as well as Japanese quilts and, you know, Japanese fabrics and Sashiko and Kogen and Boro, another thing that I really love are antique British medallion quilts. So I thought I'll take the format of the medallion quilt. We've got a central panel, and then you've got a round, you know, and then you've got another border coming around it. I'll take that and I will use that for a Sashiko sampler, because I've made a lot of Sashiko samplers over the years, and these panels have been based on things that I've taught. They've been based on actual samplers that I've made, but I'd never done a layout where it was like a medallion.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, if I do a medallion, or as we would say, a frame quilt, that's the old name for it over here, I thought that would look absolutely wonderful. So that panel and that panel were off the first set of Camon crests. Now this one here, there's two that have got ginkgo leaves on them. This one is actually off the second set. This one, which has maple leaves, is off the first set. Now, because the colours in this coordinating fabric were not sort of terribly realistic, I thought, well, I haven't got a red. I don't want to introduce a red for the maple leaves, and I don't particularly want to do them in green. So I thought, well, why not go a bit sort of fantastical and do them in pink? And I used the same approach, really, when I was doing the little pine tree motif as well. They're not desperately realistic colours, but they coordinate nicely with my fabric. I thought it gives it a different look. So this one's off the second set. This is off the first set. So you can see I've done them in lots and lots and lots of different colours. There's the crane. The crane, again, was a challenge. You see, in real life, I'll move him over a little bit so you can see him a bit better there. In real life, the feathers, the tail feathers and the feathers at the back of the wing on the crane are actually black. But again, I didn't want to use black thread. And anyhow, I don't think black would show terribly well against this. And the top of its head would be red. So I thought, well, I'll use pink for the top of its head and I'll use purple for the tail.
Yeah. That's lovely.
Yeah, so change that around a little bit.
So have you finished? all
I
the
have
squares?
finished the big squares on the green with the cam on crests, and now I have got to do I've got to do all of the geometric ones. The geometric ones are quicker to stitch though.
Are they?
Yeah, but typically I'll sit down. We don't actually watch live TV. We just have a DVD or something. I'll sit down in the evening, stitch one of these in an evening, and get it out of the way. So those are some of the ones that I've done. You see on the green, and I've also got a complete set that I've done on the black version.
That's amazing. I do like the black.
And I've got a blue set that I'm in the progress of doing the blue. But with the blue, I'm just using the cream thread, and sometimes I'm stitching with it doubled, like I've done here around the edges of the maple leaves, which of course is the traditional way of stitching. You find in nearly all old pieces of Sashiko they stitch with the double thread, but sometimes you think, well, actually I would rather use that for a kind of decorative effect. Oh, here, this one here. This is the ginkgo leaves. I've used a double thread on the outline to make it look a bit bolder, and then I use single on the middle sections there, on like the veins on the leaf. But other ones that I've done of that, I've switched them around. Oh, here's the same one stitched in colours, but I've done the whole thing singly on that. You know, you can keep playing around with them, and it just gives them a different look each time. So almost every time I'm stitching these, I'm giving it a different combination of colour.
And what is the actual fabric?
It's called samugi. Now samugi, it just means something like, it's a spun fabric. You can have it in silk, you can have it in wool, you can have it in a blend. This one's a cotton, and it's made by Olympus. So it's the normal modern fabric width. It's 110 centimetres wide. It's not the narrow width that you'd be using for kimono. But it's a cotton fabric, and I absolutely love it because they also make a plain version of it, and it's fine enough that you can use it for piecing, but it's enough of a low thread count that you can stitch Sashiko through it, and you can get the doubled Sashiko thread through it quite easily. So it's a very, very versatile fabric. It's really lovely. It's woven with a coloured warp and a black weft.
Yeah.
So right across the range, I found you can combine two colours of samugi that you wouldn't think would go together, and they do, because they've got the same black thread in them. So I'm just whizzing through some of these now. I've done the full set in black.
Did you draw all of these out?
Did I draw them originally?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. The first set of panels that we did were based on some that I did for a book called Japanese Quilt Blocks to Mix and Match. And the second set were based on some that I've taught in different workshops. That's for the cam on crests. And the geometric blocks, some of them were taken, some of the geometric patterns, we took them from Ultimate Sashiko Sourcebook. Others we took from Japanese Quilt Blocks to Mix and Match. But the thing about giving you it as a panel is you don't have to draw them out.
Yeah.
You can just get on straight away with the stitching. But for goodness sake, do not wash the panel beforehand, because everything will disappear off it, which probably won't be all that good, really. Here's some of that's one of the geometric ones that I'm on with at the moment in the black. It gives them wonderfully intense colours. There's a whole pile here. I could sort of stand around and go through these all day, but I just thought I'd bring a few in so you can see what I've been doing.
Yeah, really
and I promise that now I'm getting my mobile phone back. It's had a new battery put in it. I will be able to take some photos again and start putting the whole thing back onto the blog, because it kind of ground to a halt. And I was trying to take photos using the iPad, but it was a little bit faffy. So the phone will be working again.
So
I'll be able
where's
to
your
do it. My blog, it's a blogger blog. As I said, if you go onto my website, which is susanbriscoe.com, there's a little bar on the top right, and it just says visit my blog, and you just click on that and bang, you're straight in, and you can search the blog. There's a lot of, it's like a sort of a section with labels on. You can search through that, or you can stick in, Sashiko sampler stitch along. My idea for the sampler stitch along was that I would put all the stuff on the blog for free, so you don't even have to sign up. Just look at what I'm doing, really. And if you want to sort of interact a bit, you can join the group on Facebook, or you can send me pictures of what you're doing, or whatever. It's because I love seeing what people do with the panels. But the idea was that you could join it in different ways, because, some people may have the books and they may want to draw the designs themselves. And for other people, of course, it's just as convenient to buy them ready printed. I'm going to work completely with them printed, and just show you all the different possibilities. and it's utterly well, you can see I've got a great pile of the things. I've just kept going and going and going, and yeah, I will start putting them together pretty soon. To be honest, I've been playing about with the maths of how they fit together. That's where I came a little bit unstuck, because with my black set of panels, I rinsed them off in quite hot water, and I shrank them very, very slightly. Oh. So I had to change the original measurements, and I came up with this idea of trimming down the little squares to being 4 1/4 inches. But then the maths was just getting ridiculous to make it fit in the middle, so I've rejigged it. So they're now going to be trimmed down to 4 inches. You've got plenty of space all the way around to do that anyway. It just means that you'll lose the little zigzagged or overlocked edge that you put on it, but it doesn't really matter.
So when we do wash it, would a cool wash be preferable then?
I would just hand wash it cool, yeah. I don't know why, I just stuck it in quite hot water. I think I was trying to do it in a real rush. I thought, and I just didn't judge how hot it was and just plonked them all in. And they shrank a teeny bit. You know, the Sashiko sort of pulls it in a little bit anyway. And then I have pressed them pretty hard as well. I used a steam iron and a shot of steam, and I really went for it and made sure I squared them back up as well as I could. So, you know, as I said, I've got several sets, and I will get to very, very soon actually starting to put them together. Yeah, it's just enjoyable.
The red panels have been really popular today.
I find, for me, that the blue is the most popular, and then the red is the next most popular. I really love the green colour, and I feel that sometimes people kind of overlook the green a little bit. I know that the more traditional colours for Sashiko tend to be, you know, the blue end of colours. But when we looked at the full range of all the different shades, I chose the 6 colours that we've got for different reasons. We have a wonderful, I think it's called light grey, I think, on the website. I think of it as taupe. It's like a really warm, taupey kind of colour. And the thing is, I did a book of Japanese taupe quilt blocks a few years ago. And I do love that kind of taupe end of fabrics, all the greys and the browns and things. And I thought, well, it'd be nice to have the option of stitching the Sashiko and putting it together with that end of fabrics. And then you see the light blue as well gives you another option. Because not all old Japanese things are done with very, very dark blues. While we've been doing this hour of the show, we've got another old piece of Boro hanging up behind me. And that has got all sorts of colours, including a light blue and a lilac-y shade. And it was in the first hour when I saw those cotton linen blends that were on the website. And I thought, wow, they just look so much like the fabrics in this quilt. It would be a shame not to have them on the show. So yeah, you can be stitching on all sorts of different colours. And as you can see with this piece here, I think we've zoomed in a little bit with it. Oh yes, lovely. You can see a bit from the top. You know, this is your typical old piece of Boro. This is probably made as a bed cover for somebody fairly small, maybe a child. And this would have been the back, and the front of it, oops, if I can hold it up a little, like that, is all done with stripes, which are much more coordinated. But then on the back, you've got a riot of lots of different colours. And some of these, I think it's because the way they've faded, they've gone almost a lilac-y colour. But they're really, really lovely and gorgeous soft colours. And I noticed over there as well, you've got a copy of my book, Simple Sashiko.
Yes.
Now, right. You see, on the front cover of that, there's a small wall hanging. This just goes to show really how I'm constantly inspired by different things in my collection. The small wall hanging on the front of that was actually inspired by the piece of Boro that I've got behind me here.
Oh, yes, you can see that.
Yeah. But I made the pieces, you know, more regular, and I also put quite fancy Sashiko on them. But that's where I got my colour idea and the idea of them being random pieces, you see. So that book is another little book. It's a good one for beginners with Sashiko, that, because they're little projects that came out of the Ultimate Sashiko source book. And also I did a book called Japanese Sashiko Inspirations, which at the moment is only available as a print on demand from Amazon. It's not actually been reprinted. We did talk about the idea of possibly getting it reprinted though. And that was by the publisher that did Ultimate Sashiko source book, and also the same publisher that did my book of Boro. You know, I've worked with them quite a lot. But for this little book, we took a really nice selection of projects from both books, rewrote the instructions and made it more of a book for complete beginners who maybe weren't quite so sure about, you know, getting really into Sashiko in a big way. But it would give them a chance, you know, to sort of dip the toe in it, really, I suppose.
And it's only £6.99. So
Yeah, that's
great value as
you've
well.
got it on a really, really good price. And you've also got another of my books there.
We do, we do.
That's my quilting tips, techniques, and trade secrets. That covers everything you need to know, really, for putting quilts together and designing quilts and all kinds of things. Because quite a few years ago, I used to teach a beginner's quilting class.
Did you?
Yeah, this was it was near Wrexham, and there's some of my students' work actually as well as some of my own work in there. And I'd done a book. There was a book design company called Quarto, and I did the Japanese quilt blocks to mix and match book with them. And they asked me if I would do something like a beginner's book, and it was just at the time when there were lots of beginners patchwork and other craft classes were all getting axed by the local authorities. And I said, well, yeah, I'll do the book. Can I put basically what we did in the course into the book? And they said yes. So that's what you've got there. The title's a bit of a fib, really, because practically every line has got a tip in it, or a technique, or a trade secret. But it covers all your basics of quilting. And I think that's pretty good value for money book as well, actually.
The £12.99, I think that's fantastic. It's a really
you do get a lot. It covers just about everything. We did give the book a bit of a revamp a few years ago because it's also available in America, published by a different publisher. And they wanted they wanted some more, I think they asked me to put sort of more modern quilts in it.
Right.
And the American publishers came up with a few images. We switched a few of the images around, but really it was only some of the examples. I think they just wanted it a little bit, updating. So that is actually the new edition, but the basics in it are all there. And there are a lot of my quilts in it as well. It was fun to do that. Yeah, I'm enjoying watching you flip through it. It has everything in it, including ideas for hanging your quilts, what to do with them at the end, really, too.
Yeah.
And entering them into quilt shows and things, which hopefully, maybe by next year, that side of life might start coming back a little bit as well.
So how many books have you written?
This is actually number 15.
Is it?
It's fairly horrific, isn't it, really? Yes. Yeah, I sometimes lose count myself, when people say that. But I did actually count them up a couple of weeks ago, and yes, we are now at 15. And I'm not sure what the next one's going to be, but I would be quite interested in doing the Sashiko course, because I've been teaching a Sashiko course since 2013, which was initially based on taking a lot of the things that I did as day workshops and putting them together, as a longer course. And that has partly fed into the panels as well. And I thought it would be really nice now to do a book which really, really held your hand, and each chapter would be like the equivalent of one lesson on the course. But we'll have to see how we could do that, because it would require a lot of step-by-step photography, and I think I might have to sort of set up a home photography studio to do it at the moment. We'd have to see how we would manage it. So that might be the next, you never know.
So book number 15.
Book number 15,
which
the Book
is
of Boro.
officially publishing tomorrow, but you can get hold of yours right now, and yours will be signed as well.
I've got to go and do them all now.
I think somebody's pre-ordered one. They were off your website. They're sitting at home with it on their lap. And
Oh
enjoying
yeah,
every second
yeah. The
of it.
website, because I had it on my website, and I was taking pre-orders from way back in September, and we had to move like lightning to get them out last week. Seriously, yeah, they arrived I think Wednesday afternoon, and we got the first batch in the post about 2 hours later, by working really, really super fast. But yes, it has only just hit the UK. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad it's hit Sewing Street.
So am I.
Fascinating. So again, want to get hold of yours, there is a 10% discount, and every one of those books are signed as well. We've only got a couple of minutes left. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us in a couple of minutes?
Oh, well, maybe there is. I'm just sort of having a little ponder down here what we've got. Oh, I've got this. I didn't show you this a moment ago. Just looking at, this is to do with the panels, really. Something else that I like making with these, I know I've shown this before, they make the most easy cushions. This was made before I did the panels, by the way, but this is just an example of how you can get something like the striped fabric that we've got for sale here. Well, we haven't got it on the table now, but we had it earlier. It's on the website.
Yeah.
You can just border it very simply, each panel with a bit of stripe, and for the back, this has got the easiest little envelope back on it. It's nothing fancy. And if you wanted to get really sophisticated, you could put buttonholes down there, or you know, press studs or whatever you want. But I just tend to leave the back open like that. Partly because I'm constantly taking them on and off cushion pads of different things. And yes, it's got a loose thread on it as well. But you know,
that could be a bag though as well, couldn't it? If
you could do anything you want with them. Yes,
tote.
yeah. And with Christmas coming up, you know, and people wanting to make gifts for Christmas.
Yeah.
This is absolutely ideal. You know, the panel will give you quite a few different options. You know, from one panel, you could maybe make a few bags. You could make some cushions. You could do a table runner with 4 or 5 of the larger panels on it. You could make 2 sets of coasters using the small ones. Yeah. So there's or little pin cushions, whatever you want. You can make so many different things with them.
Have you got any plans coming back again?
Oh yeah, but I'm not quite sure when. But I will definitely be back, and it will be with something else. Hopefully with some of these sampler quilts when I've got them actually stitched together. And then I'll probably actually hand quilt them as well. Because I like to do the Sashiko just through one layer, like embroidery. Then piece them together, you know, put some sashing in, some other fabrics or whatever. Then layer them up and quilt them. And usually I tend to hand quilt. And I'll just do something like go round the outside of the motif, or possibly just round the circle. You know, picking out different elements, you know, something like, well, say for example this one here, which is the an ivy leaf. You know, for this I would hand quilt right next to the Sashiko stitches, and I would just go all the way around, maybe just around the outside of the leaf even on that one, and dip down to the middle, and that would probably be enough to hold all the layers together, I think, quite adequately, really. If you're a real whiz at free motion quilting, you might be able to free motion it on the machine, but I tell you now, I am not. So I will definitely be hand quilting mine. And I think if you did really want to do it on the machine, it might be an idea to do it as quilt as you go and deal with each piece separately, and that would be a lot easier.
I can't wait to see it. Well, hopefully you're going to be back with us soon, Susan. I've had a lovely day. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It's been great coming back.
We're just about out of time here, but I can give you a peek as to what's coming up tomorrow here on Sewing Street. So at 8 o'clock in the morning, bright and early, we're going to have bag making with your stash. At 9 o'clock, it's fruit punch quilt with K-Facet design roll with Sarah Bolam. Sewing room tools is coming up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and at 11 o'clock, it's the Rainbow Heart wall hanging and cushions again with Sarah Bolam. So if you want to stick around, and we're going to do a little bit of knitting and crocheting with Wendy in the next hour in Yarn Lane. Otherwise, I shall see you back here again on Sewing Street on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. Bye-bye.